This young nobleman is our protagonist, Simone. 500 years ago, Simone was the demon king who made the entire continent tremble in fear. But now he is nothing more than a debtor. Just half a day ago, he sold the damn symbolic statue of his family to some merchants, all because he wanted to go all in at a casino, as it was the only way to salvage the situation. His family was buried under a mountain of debt, and to explain this, we must go back 500 years. Beneath the sunset, Simone gazed at the magnificent castle before him. And he spoke to a girlfriend, Katerina. Do you know that Tillman Castle, the one we can see over there? Has not fallen into enemy hands a single time for the past 200 years. In response to these words, Katerina's voice grew flustered. Simone, what are you talking about? We should get out of here. This isn't a place we're allowed to be. Hearing this, Simone gently shook his head. It's fine. No one will come here at this hour. But I have to finish my cleaning, Katerina said nervously, just for a little while. I really want to show you the view from here. It looks so beautiful at this time of day, he exclaimed. But for Katerina, the beautiful scenery meant nothing to her. So what if it's beautiful? That's the land of nobles, a place where we can't live. Saying that, she let out a long sigh, and at that moment, Simone revealed his purpose. Actually, I can buy a house there. I think I'll be promoted to intermediate mage this time. I wrote a thesis on a new type of golem, and my seniors loved it, haha. They said that if the elder also acknowledges it, I'll very likely get promoted. I can't afford a large house, but I can buy one big enough for the two of us to live in together. So, Katerina, will you marry me? You've endured so much for me all this time. From now on, I will make you the happiest person in the world, Simone said tightly, gripping his girlfriend's hand. At his proposal, Katerina was silent for a few seconds. Then she gently touched Simone's face and teased, But Simone, shouldn't you become an intermediate mage first? You're so mean, he said. Hearing that, Katerina burst into joyful laughter. Ha ha, I'm just kidding. She paused, her expression turning somber. I never thought a day like this would come for us. And just like that, Simone thought that the two of them could live happily together. But that was not to be. I thought we could be happy because I worked so hard for our happiness, but I was wrong. Even if I try with all my might for a lifetime, nothing will change. But that doesn't mean they can just take everything they want and trample all over us. At that moment, two bastards brazenly stole his thesis. A new magic technique using golems. Elder, you are a genius. The thesis you wrote will change the world, someone said. Haha, you flatter me, Your Grace. It is all thanks to your investment in me. If it yields results, I will invest even more, the Duke promised. As for their conversation, Simone could only clench his fists helplessly. However, the conversation between the two of them turned to another subject. But Elder, what about that other request of mine? He said with a sly smile, causing the Elder to startle as he recalled something. Oh, I'd forgotten. Will that be a problem? The Duke asked again. She's just a woman I'm acquainted with. The Elder replied with a dismissive wave of his hand, and at that sound, two guards dragged Katerina inside. Seeing her, Simone's face went blank. In the next moment, the two soldiers brought Katerina forward. As for the short, fat Duke, he looked at her face, a lecherous expression clearly visible on his own. Oh, I heard she's quite famous for her looks. It seems the rumors are true. In response, the Elder nodded in agreement. Indeed, if it weren't for her humble origins, she would have lived a very different life. Back to Simone watching the woman he loved about to fall into that villain's hands. How could he possibly stand it? This is everything I've dreamed of my whole life. Everything I've devoted myself to protecting. How can you bastards destroy it all as if it were nothing? You bastards, get your hands off her now! He shouted, concentrating magic into his right palm to form an energy ball and hurling it at the two scoundrels. However, his attack was pitifully weak compared to the Elder. Seeing Simone dare to attack, the Elder's eyes filled with rage. Don't you know your place, you brat? You're nothing but trash. With that said, he raised his hand to the sky and unleashed a bolt of red lightning that struck Simone directly, sending him flying like a sack of rags. Thrown backward, the final result was that his attempt to save his girlfriend had failed, and Simone himself was thrown into a dark cell, left to befriend the rats inside. Looking at the rats scurrying around in front of him, he didn't even have the energy to shoo them away, because Simone's eyes were now lifeless. There's nothing I can do. How am I supposed to survive? He thought. His body moved on its own, his hand shooting out to grab the nearest rat and bring it to his mouth as if to eat it. But just at that moment, a spear tip jabbed him lightly, sending a sharp pain through his back. The culprits were the two guards on duty outside. Look, he's actually trying to eat that rat. Good, he can clean this place up for us. Just leave him alone. Even a mage from the magic tower is nothing in this condition, the two jeered. Then one of them advised Simone, "Hey, you should just tell them. If you help them summon the golem, they'll let you go right away. Are you listening?" He urged again when Simone gave no reply, and the guard with the sword wasn't surprised by this reaction. "I told you he went completely insane after that wench died." Hearing this, the spearman asked, "But why did she die?" "I heard it was because she wanted to protect her virtue. What a pity." "Tisk, she was so beautiful. Such a waste to die like that," they said mockingly, completely unaware. Their words were the final straw, pushing Simone to make a momentous decision. He was then seen raising his fingertip to his mouth and biting down hard, causing his finger to bleed profusely. And as he began to do this, Simone could only apologize silently to his girlfriend in his heart. "I'm sorry, Katerina." The scene then cuts to the two guards. From their perspective, the sewer rats below suddenly fell silent, and all turned to look in the same direction. This made both of them curious. Why are they so strange today? What do they want?" Beside him, the swordsman seemed to sense that something was wrong. Feeling uneasy, he said, "Something is very strange. Wait, go stab one." At his command, the spearman gripped his weapon and stabbed the nearest sewer rat, which let out a single pained squeal before it died. But immediately after, a six-pointed star magic circle suddenly appeared on its belly, and from within this magic circle, both guards immediately sensed a dangerous aura, and as if recognizing what it was, the swordsman's eyes widened in horror. Then he cursed, "Damn it!" With that, he hurriedly turned back towards Simone's cell, where at that moment, Simone was using his own blood to draw a magic circle on the floor. "You're crazy! Stop what you're doing right now!" he yelled, rushing forward to intervene. "Simone?" But it was already too late because by now, the giant magic circle on the ground was complete. "You want me to stop? I've only just begun." "If I had been stronger, I wouldn't have lost you." As he spoke, he slammed his palm forcefully onto the magic circle to activate it. Simultaneously, smaller magic circles appeared on all the nearby rats, similar to the one on its belly. Then their bodies were pulled into the 6 circles on the array like sacrifices. Finally, a massive explosion erupted within the cell. It even blew the iron gate wide open, and now in the eyes of the two guards, a rat-shaped golem as large as a small mountain stood behind Simone. It made both of their faces go blank as they stared at the danger before them. Seeing the look on their faces was exactly what Simone had hoped for. That's right. That was the same look on Katerina's face back then. The words had barely been spoken when the rat-shaped golem immediately swung its giant arm forward. It sliced the bodies of the two guards into multiple pieces. Just like that, with the help of the rat-shaped golems, Simone fought his way straight to the outside. As he walked, he muttered, "I've tried to think of the reason why I'm still alive. Perhaps it's because I need to take revenge on this cursed world. A place that didn't let us live happily together. You don't need to worry, Katerina. I won't be weak like before. I will seize any power I can and will change everything," Simone said with a face full of madness. Time passed quickly, and after escaping the dungeon waiting for him was the very same elder who had defeated him before. Upon seeing the golem Simone had summoned, his eyes went wide with shock as he questioned Simone, "You bastard, have you lost your mind? Why are you using dark magic? You, a servant of the gods, are working for a demon." In response to this, Simone looked straight at him with ice-cold eyes and said, "So what?" Elsewhere, the Duke who witnessed this scene was scared shitless. "Spare me, I can let you become the master of this place." "If you spare me, I'll do anything, so please," he said in a panic which almost made Simone burst out laughing. "Anything you say." "But you can't bring the dead back to life, can you?" With that, he flicked his hand, unleashing a blast of magic that blew the nobleman to smithereens. "This wretched world, Katerina, I will destroy it all, just like that." Simone's quest for revenge against the world officially began, and in response to his assault in a certain palace, a man dressed like a king was pointing his sword toward the knight kneeling before him. "Hero La can please save the world from falling into darkness." The Demon King's army of darkness has trampled upon the lands of the gods and massacred innocent people. That army of demons has already destroyed 2 kingdoms and 1 duchy. The fate of the world rests solely in your hands, Hero Lacan. Therefore go and kill the Demon King and save this world. With those words, he bestowed the sword in his hand upon the young hero. The scene then shifts to a different setting. An army had been assembled to prepare for the Demon King's annihilation. Looking at the sword in his hand, Lacan raised it high above his head and declared to all the people below, O mighty warriors of the Holy Atonia Empire, the light of the Empire has faded and a giant shadow is devouring the continent of Laresia. However, we will not retreat. For our families and for this entire world. Today, we shall destroy the Demon King and become the final hope that protects the world, returning to Simone's memories in a certain library. His girlfriend Katerina was unhappily sharing a story she had just overheard. "Simone, have you heard the news? How could they cut off a child's hand just for stealing a piece of bread?" she said angrily, startling Simone, who quickly reminded his girlfriend, "Katerina, you're being too loud. What if someone hears you?" In response to this, Katerina, far from lowering her voice, seemed to speak even louder. "The nobles only punish others because they've never known what it's like to be hungry. Why was that child punished so unreasonably? Is it just because of the class they were born into? We didn't ask to be born into this station either," she said. Her face became visibly sad. Across from her, after listening, Simone could only offer some words of comfort. Perhaps the day will come when social status is no longer an issue, and we can all live freely and as equals. Simone, a day like that won't come if we just wait for it. "Then what do you want to do?" Simone asked curiously. "We have to change things ourselves. Otherwise, the children we raise in the future will have to experience the same things." Katerina said, her voice filled with concern for the future. Back to Simone, hearing what Katerina had just said. He was so startled and embarrassed that he dropped the books in his hands. "Children, but we aren't even married yet, Katerina. That's not the important part." "Don't you plan on marrying me?" Katerina asked, raising an eyebrow, which made his face turn even redder. I will, but I'm not ready yet," the flustered boy stammered. Seeing him dawdle like that, Katerina grew impatient. "So are you going to marry me or not?" Katerina growled. "Of course I am," Simone replied weakly. Beside him, seeing his flustered state, Katerina let out a small smile and gently shook her head. "You're hopeless, Simone. You're just too shy. I'm the only one who would ever marry you, you know. Ha!" The scene shifts to a magnificent yet eerie castle where the final battle is about to unfold. The army led by the hero Lacan had arrived for the decisive battle against Simone. Soon this will all be over. "It will take a long time, but the world we always longed for, I will make it a reality," he whispered in a voice only he could hear. On the opposing side, the army led by Lacan did not rush to attack carelessly. Instead, the hero Lacan stepped forward and challenged him. "Demon King Simone, the entire world has suffered because of you, but today that comes to an end. I swear in the name of the gods and of justice, all of your crimes will be judged this day," the young man declared, staring directly at Simone, with eyes full of determination. And as for this declaration, Simone truly couldn't hold back any longer and burst out laughing. "Ha ha, gods and justice. You intend to judge me with things like that? Then by all means go ahead. Do you really think I'm afraid of your false gods and your phony justice?" As he spoke, Simone's entire body erupted with a terrifying aura truly that of a demon king. In response, Lacan shouted back, "Of course we do. Countless heroes of the Empire stand here with me to pass judgment upon you. Today we will defeat the Demon King and protect the world. All units advance." At the young hero's shout, everyone officially launched their attack. Seeing this, Simone looked at them as if they were already dead. "Who are you to dare judge me? I am the one who will pass judgment. The day I lost Katerina, justice was already dead." As he spoke, he slammed his staff down and an incredibly complex magic circle instantly appeared on the ground. "I no longer believe in such illusions anymore. I will show you what I believe in power. Look, hero, this is the day true justice is born. Cast aside your false beliefs. Today will mark the beginning of a new era," Simone said coldly as at that moment. Countless giant golems he had summoned appeared behind him. Then, without even waiting for a command from Simone, a giant stone golem raised its fist and prepared to smash the insignificant ants before it into a bloody pulp. Seeing this spectacle, the soldiers' faces went pale. "Damn it, he's summoned so many golems," someone cried in fear. "Don't be afraid. If we retreat now, we'll have no future," another urged. Back with Simone, seeing the soldiers still refusing to give up, he sneered slightly. "Fools, you are nothing but trash. With nothing but social status to cling to, you dare to resist true power. It's over. I will erase every last one of you." At his words, the entire legion of golems began to move. However, the hero Lacan was not about to let him get his way so easily. Demon King Simone, you are truly unforgivable. I will put an end to your crimes right now. Saying this, he charged directly at the golem that was protecting Simone. Then the young hero swung his sword, unleashing a blade of light that sliced clean through the stone creature's right arm, causing the arm to immediately crash to the ground. The sheer force of the attack actually made Simone's expression harden. He took down a high-level golem in just a single blow. I see. So the reason I couldn't conquer the Livia kingdom, no matter how many golems I sent, was all because of this man. At this thought, both of them began to shout declarations at each other. Hero Lacan, Demon King Simone, today is the day you fall. And just like that, the battle began in the most ferocious way imaginable. An unknown amount of time passed, and now the bodies of soldiers were strewn across the battlefield. And in another corner, Lacan was using his sword to prop himself up, struggling not to collapse. Let's end this here, Demon King Simone. He spoke coldly as the giant stone golem behind the protagonist began to break apart and crumble, returning our attention to Simone. Knowing that he had failed, he uttered some last words. Hero Lacan, you know this world is already rotten. If it weren't for you, I could have started over after destroying everything. I curse you, Lacan. Your entire bloodline will spend their lives suffering in agony. Simone said this while looking at the young hero with a deadpan expression, and right after he finished his words, Lacan immediately swung his sword and lopped his head right off. Just like that. Simone's consciousness sank deep into the darkness, and in that haze, old memories flooded his mind. You know, Simone, when you smile and are with me? Healthy and without any troubles, that's when I'm happiest, she said. She then stood on her tiptoes and gave the main character a passionate kiss. After that, she smiled and said, I love you, Simone. The scene changes to a luxurious room. A young teenager suddenly woke up with a dazed look. He then raised a hand to his neck and muttered incomprehensibly, A dream, my head is still on my neck. My head hurts so much, there's no wound. What in the world is going on? Where am I? I've never seen this room before. Am I in a foreign country? Why am I still alive? Not even dark magic can bring the dead back to life. If it could, I would have done it already. So why am I still alive? Countless questions began to echo in Simone's head until he noticed a painting hanging in the room. What is this? Why is there a painting of that bastard here? Simone thought with frustration as the door to the room opened, and an uncle-like man who looked like a butler stepped inside. Seeing Simone was awake, he said joyfully, Young master, oh my, you're awake. What a relief you've been unconscious for 2 weeks. I thought we had lost the last of the Lacan line. As he spoke, he hugged Simone tightly while the protagonist still had no idea who this person was. Wait, young master, who are you? Simone cried out in alarm. Hearing him say this, the butler's whole body trembled with a sense of unease. Young master, do you mean you don't recognize me, oh dear heavens? The accident must have caused you to lose your memory. It's my fault for not taking proper care of you. As he spoke, he knelt before Simone, blaming himself. Then, after taking a few seconds to regain his composure, the butler wiped away his tears and explained everything. That's right, I will tell you everything. It's probably only temporary. Perhaps you'll remember everything after I tell you. You are to soon become the lord of this land, the heir to Viscount Lacan of the Baroque Empire, as well as the descendant of the great hero Duke de Lacan. The man calmly explained everything. This caused a look of utter confusion to be written all over Simone's face. The unbelievable information coming from the old butler's mouth made it difficult for Simone to accept. What, Lacan died 500 years ago, so I've been reincarnated as a descendant of Lacan after 500 years, he thought. As if to verify the truth, Simone quickly ran outside, causing the butler to frantically call out, Young master, you shouldn't be moving in your condition. Paying no heed to his words, the main character's mental state was in utter chaos. Damn it, you expect me to believe this? Do you take me for a fool? This can't be happening. It's simply... As he thought, he threw open the balcony doors, and the sight before him made his eyes bulge, because right then, before his eyes was the figure of an old night golem, a full 10 meters tall, something that had never existed 500 years ago. Looking at the giant golem in front of him, even if he didn't want to believe it, Simone had to accept the truth. What is this? If that thing really exists, it means everything he said is true, he thought. Simone focused his observation for a moment and quickly sensed just how complex the thing before him was. Looking at that complexity, I can tell this weapon is far more advanced than the magic golems I could only have imagined. At that moment, the old butler also ran to his young master's side. Seeing this, Simone quietly asked a question. What did you say your name was earlier? In response, the old butler bowed slightly. My name is Han, your attendant. Then Han, what is this thing I'm looking at? Simone spoke without taking his eyes off the giant golem in regarding this question. Because Han had concluded that Simone had amnesia, he patiently explained that is called a two-legged humanoid weapon. Is it made from golem magic? Simone asked. That's half right. Giants are made from magical engineering, a blend of science and magic. Due to advanced technology, unlike remotely controlled golems, a giant has a pilot who sits right inside, Han continued to explain. And to this, Simone turned to look at him with a skeptical gaze. A human sits inside that thing. Yes, that is correct. Han nodded. Turning back to Simone after hearing this, his face became pensive again. You would need a lot of advanced technology to be able to pilot from inside. But if what Han said is true, then this is truly a magnificent weapon. The pilot is protected from external threats during combat, and it reacts faster than a remotely controlled golem. It solves all the problems I had when using golems. But if this is real, it means 500 years have passed. But why did I have to be reborn as a descendant of my enemy? Simone asked himself. Time passed quickly and the scene shifted to a study. Instead of trying to figure out why he had been revived, Simone was currently taking the opportunity to chug a bottle of rare wine which made the old butler. Han worry endlessly. Young master, you can't push yourself too hard. Please calm down. After all, Simone was a patient who had just woken up, so he couldn't let him touch alcohol. Back to Simone, hearing the reminder, he complained, You said I'm a descendant of Lacan, right? So what's the big deal? I'm healthier than most. Before the words could even leave his mouth, Simone's body was suddenly struck by a sharp pain, causing him to collapse onto the table. Damn it, what is this? Simone said in confusion while Han, seeing this, wasn't too surprised, as if he had already expected it to happen. I warned you, young master. You must be careful of that curse. What a curse? Simone shouted, which made Han standing before him a bit disappointed. I had hoped, but he really doesn't remember anything at all, Han thought to himself. Before Simone could ask about the curse, he demanded, Tell me, Han, what is this curse you just mentioned? In response, Han began to explain everything to him. Where should I begin? Your ancestor Sir Lacan led an army to defeat the forces of the Demon King who sought to destroy everything. After that fierce battle, he brought back peace. I've already mentioned this. Sir Lacan was praised for his efforts in saving the world, but died an early death due to the Demon King's curse. Back to Simone, he quickly realized that before being destroyed by Lacan in his past life, he had indeed cursed that hero. Is it really that? But wait, I only said that in anger. Simone thought in agony as now. He himself was the one suffering the consequences of a careless word from his past life. To summarize, 500 years ago, a peaceful world faced a threat of destruction from the Demon King. His dark magic could summon countless golems stronger than any army, and he destroyed countless heroes with just a snap of his fingers. It seemed the Demon King was about to conquer the world, but thanks to the righteous hero Lacan, the world became peaceful once more. However, the Demon King cursed him before he died, causing him and his bloodline to die in agony. At a young age, gently closing the book in his hands, Simone fumed, wondering what fool had written it. Good grief, they just make things up as they please, don't they? I didn't even cast a real curse in the first place. Do they really believe a curse like that could last so long? Simone complained, but then he fell silent for a moment and accepted his reality. In any case, it's my own fault for losing. But why was I born into the house of my enemy? This feels like it's from a past life, doesn't it? It's as if I'm the one who's cursed. With that thought, Simone threw the book aside and took down another one, trying to quickly gather information from the past 500 years. As he read, he reminded himself, This is my second chance. As someone who died before achieving my goal, I can't face Katerina like this. This rotten world has existed for another 500 years. I can't imagine how much it has changed. No matter how much time has passed, surely not all of my subordinates have been wiped out. I must learn about this era first in case I can meet my subordinates again. I will change the world, he told himself, or at least that was the plan. But by the next morning, Simone had already reverted to his state of despair, becoming as debauched as possible. Now his only companion was a bottle of wine. He mumbled constantly, Finding subordinates, to hell with that, they've probably already forgotten the Demon King. It's been too long, 500 years. There's no trace of my existence left. On top of that, this body has no mana, no vitality. So what can I possibly do? As he spoke, he staggered forward, and perhaps because he was so drunk, he missed a step and fell flat on the ground. But Simone didn't even bother to get up, remaining collapsed on the floor. Feeling his body's weakness, he mocked himself. "Ha ha, what now, Katerina? Can I do nothing in this life either? I just wanted to create a world where everyone could live as equals." Simone spoke in a voice filled with helplessness when suddenly a shout from outside caught his attention. Curiosity prompted Simone to go out to the balcony to see what was going on. "Why is it so noisy?" he grumbled. The cause was a portly merchant who had come to his family's estate to collect a debt. "How much longer do you intend to avoid us?" "We merchants will not back down until we speak with you, young master." This fat man was Darren, the branch manager of the Allen Merchants Guild. Back with Simone upon realizing he was in debt, not only was he not worried, he even chuckled in amusement. "I'm in debt, Lacan, you bastard. Your descendant is quite something," Simone muttered sarcastically, but Darren, unable to hear him, saw him appear and immediately demanded payment. "The 30,000 pesos you borrowed from us last year to develop a mine. But you've been ignoring us ever since. Do you intend to pay or not?" "I can't live like this anymore," he shouted. However, a debt is a debt, and there was nothing wrong with him coming to collect, but right in front of him, the old butler Han quickly tried to placate the merchant. "The young master is unwell and must rest. We will find a way to repay you, so please come back another time." Before the butler would finish, the short, fat merchant cut him off. "Unacceptable. I must hear it from the young master himself." At his words, Butler Han's group suddenly fell silent, and just one look at them was enough for Darren to figure it out. "These beggars don't have the money to pay me." Seeing their reaction, "It seems you can't pay immediately, can you?" "Let's see, 30,000 pesos is no small sum. Why don't you hand over the giants in your possession? They probably aren't worth 30,000 since they're old models. I'm making you a wonderful offer, am I not?" he said, stroking his mustache. However, as soon as the words left his mouth, the Knight Commander Roger shouted, flatly rejecting the offer. "Impossible! We only have 3 giants. How are we supposed to protect the territory without them?" After saying this, as if afraid Han would be swayed by the proposal, he quickly turned to the butler and said, "Absolutely not. You can kill me, but you cannot give away the giants. They are for our defense." Seeing Roger acting like a guard dog ready to bite Butler, Han raised a hand to calm him. "Calm down, that's not going to happen." However, the accountant Dixon, who was standing nearby, offered his own suggestion. "Instead of that, why don't we just raise the taxes?" Han shot him an exasperated look. "Dixon, can't you see the condition our people are in? We can't afford to have the few people we have left abandon the territory." "Then our only option is to hand over the giants," Dixon said with difficulty. "I told you that's not an option," the Knight Roger yelled back. Just like that, the 3 of them began to bicker, causing Simone, who was watching from above, to burst into laughter. "This household is quite entertaining. That bastard Lakin should see this." As for the merchant Darren, he had come here to collect a debt, not to watch them argue. So realizing the family had no money, he made another proposal. "Everyone please calm down. Personally, I'd love to take the giants and the manor, but I don't want people thinking I'm robbing the family of a great hero, so what about that instead?" As he spoke, he pointed towards the giant Golem. Seeing this, Roger's eyes widened as he turned to warn him, "Are you kidding me? I've told you countless times the giants are not an option." Before he could finish, Darren shook his head and clicked his tongue. "Not the giant, the magic tower behind it." Hearing this, Butler Han's group was surprised at first, but then they realized this proposal wasn't so bad after all. "The tower, well, that's better than the giants," Roger said bluntly. "That's right. No one visits it anymore." Han nodded in agreement. "We used to make a small profit from tourists, but some people even say it's the source of the curse. But now it's useless," the accountant Dixon added just as they all seemed ready to agree to Darren's proposal. But up on the balcony, Simone was completely taken aback. "What the hell, Lacan, you bastard? That's my magic tower? 500 years ago, at the place where the Demon King's tower now stands, my home was so far removed from everything. The place I lived with Katerina. An old and dilapidated place, but it was our home, the warm sanctuary we had always dreamed of. The area around the Demon Tower has been absorbed into our family's territory. How dare they set foot in that place?" Thinking of this, a rage boiled up within Simone, and he clenched his jaw so tightly his teeth ground together. Unaware that Simone was on the verge of exploding, the merchant Darren continued his sales pitch. "Ha ha, please don't worry. With the diverse capabilities of our Merchants Guild, we will turn that place into a tourist attraction. This will also boost the local economy, won't it?" he said, bursting into a smug laugh as if the deal was already done. And indeed, after hearing his proposal, the three individuals opposite him were completely convinced. The accountant Dixon couldn't wait any longer and asked, "So where do we sign?" The moment he spoke, they all felt an intense spiritual pressure bearing down on them, its source being none other than our protagonist. Simone was walking towards them, radiating a fiery rage. Seeing him approach, his retainers asked worriedly, "Young master, are you sure you should be up and walking?" Ignoring their concerned questions, Simone coldly replied, "Get out of the way." Seeing Simone finally make an appearance, Darren spoke with a sarcastic tone. "Oh my. Well, look who it is. It's been so difficult to get a meeting with you, young master. Have you recovered? I must say my discussion with your retainers went quite smoothly. Now all we need is your signature for confirmation. And we'll take over the Demon Tower," the man said with a laugh. In response, he received a furious glare from Simone. "Is talking all you're good for? Do you even know what that place is? And yet you dare demand to take it over?" He growled, his questioning tone making the three men opposite him tremble like lambs. "Why is he so aggressive?" "He's completely different from the rumors," Darren thought to himself, but he quickly regained his composure and explained, "We are very sympathetic to your situation. However, since you've put it that way," not letting the cunning merchant talk his way out of it, Simone cut him off, exposing his true intentions. "Shut up, you swindler. Your goal after taking that land in the center of the territory, which isn't far from my main manor, is to expand your influence and power under the guise of regional development, allowing outsiders to come and go freely under the pretense of tourism. Am I wrong?" "See, I told you I wasn't wrong." "Sounds about right." Simone had bluntly laid out all of his intentions. Darren's body flinched in fear before he turned to deny it, calling it too far-fetched. Back to Simone, seeing this Darren fellow argue so stubbornly only made him despise the man more. "Not only are you pathetic enough that you can't even sell used weapons, but you're also trying to take over the territory. Compared to the incompetent, I despise people who are ugly on the inside like you more," he declared in a low voice, causing the merchant's this fat man's face to scrunch up. He reminded himself that he couldn't let Simone get the upper hand. He had to retaliate forcefully, so he immediately brought up Lacan's debt to make his demand. The Lacan family cannot repay its debt, which is why we thoughtfully made this proposal. The Merchant Guild has to get its money back, of course. "Who says we can't pay within 15 days we will repay everything, both principal and interest. Now get out of here," Simone shouted, releasing his Demon King's aura. This made the group of merchants' faces turn pale. They were out of options because Simone had already declared he would pay back the money. Therefore, this Darren fellow had no choice but to grit his teeth and leave. Before taking off, he didn't forget to spout some meaningless words. "We'll see if you can keep your word." Watching his figure recede into the distance, Simone also complained, "These people are always the same." Meanwhile, speaking of Captain Roger, who had witnessed his young master stand up and declare such powerful words, he and his men were moved to tears. "Young master, I can't believe you said that to him. We, your subordinates, are deeply moved by your words. You are so perceptive to have seen through their plan. More importantly, to see you angrily stand up to protect the achievements and honor of our ancestors," Han and Roger said emotionally. Meanwhile, up ahead, our protagonist looked at their tear-stained faces and his head began to throb. He couldn't understand why his subordinates could think in such a way. "Perceptive achievements. What are you all talking about?" Simone muttered in confusion. Captain Roger, seemingly not hearing Simone's question, continued to gush about what he had just witnessed. "I never expected that you would take such pride in the family's honor. And that merchant scoundrel couldn't utter a word against your powerful rebuttal. At that moment, we saw the image of your ancestor, the hero Lacan, within you," the group of men said excitedly, unaware that as Simone listened, veins were already popping on his face. "These useless bastards! They're turning me into the Demon King again," he thought with annoyance. Then, after the excitement died down, the butler Han came to his senses and asked about Simone's plan. "May I ask how you intend to repay the debt?" Hearing this, Simone asked a question of his own. "How much is 30,000 pesos anyway?" Upon hearing this question, Han began to calculate mentally before speaking up. "You could buy 10,000 bags of wheat with that amount of money. It's worth as much as a new professional giant warrior unit. Right now, we don't have enough assets to use as collateral for a loan from a bank or other merchants. Do you have another way?" Back to Simone, upon hearing this, he was too fed up to say anything more. Not helpful at all. If that's all you have to say, get out of my way. I'll pay the debt myself, just you watch. And just like that, Simone began to tour his domain, and it would have been better if he hadn't looked. Once he looked, he discovered that this family was even poorer than he had imagined. There were no assets whatsoever. The facilities were dilapidated and unrepaired. Even when it came to food, the commoners likely ate better. It was so poor that after checking the ledgers, Simone truly began to doubt whether this was really the family of a duke. Isn't this the house of the one who defeated the Demon King? Why is there absolutely nothing here? Did you all steal everything? Simone said irritably, slightly suspicious that his subordinates might have been secretly embezzling his money. No, how could you say such a thing, my lord? If you look at the family history, you will understand. After the hero Lacan defeated the Demon King, he was granted the title of Marquis and a vast territory in the south of the Livia Kingdom at that time. Duke Barak instigated a rebellion against the Livia Kingdom. Marquis Lacan opposed him, unable to tolerate such injustice. However, due to the Demon King's curse, the Marquis suffered a devastating defeat. Afterward, his title was revoked, and he was exiled to the borderlands where he passed away due to rapidly declining health. Hearing this, Simone quickly understood the situation. He surmised that Lacan probably never intended to build his manor in this place to begin with. However, being exiled, he had no other choice. Simone continued, "But this family's financial situation is too disastrous. How has it managed to endure for 500 years? You were explaining how we ended up in this state." In response, the butler's face grew melancholic as he explained, "It is because our ancestors wished for us to reclaim our former glory. In their desire to return to their former state, the past ancestors would do anything, even using up all their assets for power. Everything they possessed they used to try and restore this family's reputation. But because the curse was passed down through the generations, no matter how hard they tried, all their efforts were in vain. And so the family that was once home to the hero who saved the world collapsed just like that. I don't know if you remember or not. The reason you were unconscious for over half a month from a personal accident was because you overworked yourself trying to restore the family's honor. You wanted to prove you had the qualities of a hero and pushed yourself too hard." Back with Simone, after listening, he slowly walked towards the window. As he walked, he asked, "So our current situation is that there's nothing we can do, right?" Hearing this, Han could only bow his head. "Even as your butler, I am unable to help you. I sincerely apologize, but we can surely do something. Even if it costs me my life, I will find a way to raise the necessary funds," the old man promised. However, before he needed to devise a plan, Simone had already come up with a clever idea. "There's no need. I've just thought of a way. We just need to pay the money back somehow, right?" As he spoke, Simone flashed a mischievous smile, making the butler feel a bit uneasy. And sure enough, his worries became reality. When he said he would pay the money back somehow, I never imagined he would actually take the statue of the hero Lacan and sell it. The old man thought blankly, staring at the spot where the giant statue had vanished into thin air. Beside him, Captain Roger had collapsed to the ground in despair. "How can this be? The pillar of our family has vanished. This must be a dream." Voices of doubt began to rise. "Just yesterday, the statue of the hero Lacan was still right here. Where could it have gone?" Han wondered to himself, but he quickly corrected his thoughts. "No, that's not what's important right now. I have to find the young master," he thought. He quickly scanned the area, trying to see where on earth his young master had run off to. But just at that moment, a soldier came running up in a panic. "Mr. Han, there's a problem. It's about the young master. I think he has left, and the security team is injured," he hastily reported. After hearing this, the old man, Han seemed to lose all his strength and slumped to the ground. "What on earth is the young master plotting?" he shouted. The scene changes to Simone, who had loaded the statue of the hero Lacan onto a carriage and was on the move. Up front, the driver was a young man who at that moment seemed to have something on his mind. He turned back, looking a bit flustered. "Young master, if it's all right, may I ask you a question?" Hearing this, Simone casually picked up a nearby bottle of wine, took a long swig, and nodded. "Sure. But who are you?" Simone's question made the flustered look on the young man's face even more pronounced. "Ha, have you forgotten? My name is Philip. I am the one who serves as your guardian knight. Having said that," after a slight pause, Philip weakly asked, "Young master, do you really intend to sell this statue?" Hearing this, Simone didn't hide his intentions and frankly admitted that's right. It could fetch a pretty high price if I melt it down. Back to Philip, his face turned ashen upon hearing this. This may not be my place to say, but this statue has 500 years of history. In response to this statement, Simone gave the young man a look as if he were an idiot. Can 500 years of history feed me? But you won't be able to pay off the entire debt even if you sell this statue, Philip hurriedly explained, and of course Simone understood this clearly. So Simone's plan wasn't to sell the statue to pay off the debt immediately. Selling this statue is just one part of my plan, Simone explained. Seeing this, his friend Philip took the chance to flatter him. Wonderful, you must have another plan then. I'm sure everyone will understand as long as you can pay off the debt. So, may I ask what your plan is? He said cheerfully. Let's see. My plan is to use the money from selling the statue to gamble. I'll make 30,000 pesos by gambling, Simone said flatly. This caused Philip's face to stiffen, and it took about 2 seconds for his soul to return to his body before he shouted, Gambling, what happens? If you lose all the money you have, he said in a loud voice, which made Simone a bit annoyed, who then questioned him back. Why do you always lecture me when you're with me? It's so annoying. In response to these words, Philip continued to yell, You're the one who dragged me out at dawn. If I had known this was your plan, I would have never come with you. The more he spoke, the paler his friend Philip's face became, because at this point, he could be considered Simone's accomplice. If Butler Han's group found out that he helped this young master take the family's statue to sell for gambling, he would be toast for sure. Then, to salvage the situation a little, Philip tremblingly suggested, Why don't we go back and beg for forgiveness? We can come up with a new plan. But behind him, when Simone heard this suggestion, his eyes widened. Are you an idiot? Think about it. If we go back now, I'll have to explain why I took the statue. And if my reason is that I needed money to gamble, they would never forgive me. I'm sure I'll be exiled from the house forever if I go back now. Really? Philip cried out in surprise. No, I guess they wouldn't do that to me since I'm still the young master. I guess you'll be the only one kicked out of the family. As he spoke, Simone looked at Philip and gave a meaningful smile, causing the young man to tremble uncontrollably, because he knew that Simone's words were completely accurate. Philip turned back to Simone. Seeing Philip's frightened state, the young man burst out laughing with great amusement. You'd better choose it carefully. Think about what's better for you. Do you want to become a penniless wanderer? Or do you want to become a hero who brings honor to this family? Choose Philip, he said. Simone then stared intently at Philip with his cunning eyes, awaiting his answer. And not surprisingly, his friend Philip had to resign himself to his fate and accept. I will continue on the path we are on. As he said these words, Philip's whole body seemed to have lost all its vitality. Good, very good. Let's do that then. Simone nodded and said. He continued to befriend the bottle of wine. In front, Philip glanced over, observing Simone's unrestrained demeanor, and cried a river in his heart. Damn it, I heard that. His personality changed after waking up from the coma, but he's still basically a devil. Time passed quickly and the scene shifted to a certain dock. At this moment, a crew member on the boat loudly announced to all passengers, 5 minutes until departure, everyone get on board, beside the ship. His friend Philip was still a bit hesitant and asked again, Are we really going to do this? So should we go back then? Simone said with a shrug, making Philip's heart seem to stop for a beat. No, let's get on the ship, Philip quickly replied. Just like that, after all the passengers were on board, the crewman rang the bell and shouted, Departing! And then, the ship carried Simone and his servant to the port city of La Mer. It was currently nighttime. After selling the statue of the hero Lacan, Simone had collected a decent sum of money. However, Philip was endlessly frustrated. That's a statue of a great hero who saved the world, and you only paid that little for it, Philip shouted. I'd go bankrupt if I paid you any more, the old man opposite him replied. As for Simone, he had no time to watch his subordinate argue with the buyer, so he stopped the argument right away. Hey, Philip led the way. But we could have gotten more, Philip said softly. Forget it, this is enough. This place must have changed, Simone said as he observed the surrounding scenery. Hearing him say this, Philip's eyes showed a hint of surprise as he asked, Have you been here before? Beside him, a flicker of memory appeared in Simone's eyes as he answered, A little. Although it didn't look like this back then. Back then, we couldn't get here easily because a Kraken was guarding it. It was basically a deserted island. Good heavens, 500 years have passed already. Simone muttered to himself, but it was a good idea to come here. Beside him, his friend Philip said excitedly, Really? Thank you, young master. I don't know when you were last here, but it's definitely different from what you remember. This place is the second largest city in the southern region of the empire, so everything is constantly changing. It's an island that people can easily get to. Although there's a Kraken and a few other sea monsters, with the development of magical engineering and weapons, this place has become much more crowded. So the gambling scene here is really big. Are you sure you'll be okay? As he spoke, Philip turned to look at his young master with a probing gaze. Philip, if I wasn't confident, I would have never come here, Simone replied coldly. And as he said these words, the two of them were standing in front of a castle that radiated a golden light enough to blind the poor. Looking at its luxury, Simone nodded, knowing that he had arrived at his destination. All right, let's go inside now, he announced. However, Philip's little heart had not yet adapted to entering such a luxurious place. Wait a moment, young master, let me just try for a bit, he said, trying to regulate his breathing as his heart pounded in his chest. In front of him, Simone, looking at his nervous state, complained, What are you so scared of? Over here. Philip, seeing his young master's confidence, asked, How are you so calm? Do you know how to win the games in there? Yes, in response to this question, Simone put on an extremely confident face. How to win? I guess so. When it comes to gambling, attitude is everything, Simone said with a laugh. But that's life. Things never go as smoothly as he thinks. After entering and trying a round of some card game, the attitude Simone mentioned before didn't seem to have any effect at all. Oh dear, not good at all. Ha, it seems I've won again. What now, will you continue? The person sitting opposite him said with a smile while simultaneously sweeping all the gold coins toward himself. Luck is smiling on me today, Simone's opponent explained. It's fine, skill is part of luck too. Simone waved his hand in reply, causing the brown-haired man to burst out laughing with great amusement. My, you really are generous. It's a true honor to play a game with such a wonderful young master. However, it seems you're out of coins. Should we end the game here, perhaps? He said in a cold voice, looking at Simone's few remaining gold coins. But having lost so much already, how could Simone possibly give up? Without a moment's hesitation, he called out to Philip behind him, We can't do that. Philip, exchange all our remaining money for Sudi. Hearing this command, Philip's face suddenly darkened like the bottom of a pot, and he hurriedly advised, We can't do that. If you lose this money too, then... Before Philip could finish his sentence, Simone screamed, Don't argue, bring it here now. But on the opposite side, the brown-haired man saw Simone's demeanor like a rabid dog having a fit. He laughed inwardly. Ha, that fool is losing his cool. I'm really lucky today. And next, after waiting for Philip to exchange the money, Simone decided to play it all in one hand. I'll bet my entire fortune on this. I'll bet it all, he said. Simone then pushed all the money he had to the front. Seeing him go so big, 2 streams of tears flowed uncontrollably from Philip's eyes. That's it. This family is finished, he said tearfully, while the brown-haired man, seeing Simone make such a foolish decision, chuckled to himself, but still offered kind advice on the surface. Your entire fortune, are you sure about that? I'm worried because this is the first time I've played a hand this big. But I'm sure you'll be fine, right, young master? In response, Simone shrugged. Worrying about it won't change the outcome. Hearing this, the brown-haired man signaled the girl behind Simone and then continued to speak. How impressive. In that case, let's confirm each other's cards, shall we? With that, he calmly flipped over his cards for Simone to see, and they were 3/8 forming a set. Whoa, damn, Lady Luck is definitely on my side today. The brown-haired man cheered. In that case, what a shame. I'll be taking these coins. Having said that, he reached out to rake the coins toward himself, not even bothering to look at Simone's cards. It was as if he already knew what cards he held. However, before his filthy hands could touch the money, Simone spoke up to stop him. Hold on, you still need to see my cards. Surprisingly, I happen to have these cards, he said. Simone then fanned out his cards for the man to see, and what a coincidence it was. His cards formed the strongest hand in the game, a royal flush. Seeing these cards, the brown-haired man's face went completely pale. Not believing his eyes, he stammered, What? But that's impossible. Aren't sudden turnarounds the real joy of gambling? This was indeed an interesting match, Simone replied with a smile. At the same time, tears streamed down Philip's face, but they were tears of joy. Young master, I believed in you, Philip said, his voice filled with emotion. Meanwhile, the brown-haired man could not accept this result. He slammed the table, pointed directly at Simone, and yelled, No way, that's impossible. How did you get those cards? What trick did you pull? At the mention of tricks, Simone's expression turned cold and sarcastic. A trick? Are you referring to having the people behind me reveal my cards? Upon hearing this, the brown-haired man's eyes went wide. How could he know? He screamed internally, while Simone, seeing this reaction, gave a contemptuous scoff. Did he really think I wouldn't have a clue? All the onlookers were his underlings, and I knew they were secretly switching cards with each other, but the reason I played the fool and fell into the trap was because I needed to touch all the cards. I left tiny marks on them, and if I can control the cards with those marks... So for me, who once managed an army of golems, swapping the cards is just like a walk in the park. I can easily win every game without resorting to such convoluted tricks, Simone thought to himself. Not wanting to waste any more time on these cheats, Simone cheerfully reminded him, "Hey, just admit you lost already." Across from him, the brown-haired man was trembling with rage as if he were having a seizure. He glanced around at everyone and then growled, "I think our business for today is over. Go teach this young master a lesson in etiquette." Following his words, the surrounding crowd immediately turned to stare at Simone. Their eyes filled with killing intent, and sharp weapons appeared in their hands. Back with Simone, despite facing a rather dangerous situation, he wasn't worried at all. Why are all these scumbags so predictable? I don't have as much mana as I used to, but facing mere thugs like you shouldn't be a problem. Bring it on. As he spoke, he began concentrating mana into his right palm. Simultaneously, the surrounding thugs charged at him like rabid dogs. However, before Simone could even display his strength, his guard Philip charged in, using his own swordsmanship to cut down the entire group, sending them flying in all directions. You dare draw your swords against the sole heir of the Lacan family. That means you're ready to forfeit your lives. Isn't that right? As he spoke, he turned to the brown-haired leader of the group, who gasped in fear as he suddenly found the sword resting against his neck. He hastily begged for his life. "I have committed a crime worthy of death." "Shut up, you scoundrel. You dare harm the young master," Philip yelled, while Simone observed his guard's skills and thought he wasn't so bad after all. Time passed quickly, and by the next morning, Philip was cheerfully carrying a sack full of money on his back. "Whoa, this thing is quite heavy. I bet this is definitely more than 10,000 pesos, he said enthusiastically. "Of course," Simone replied calmly. He then turned to look at Philip and thought to himself, "This kid. I just thought he was a common thug. But he's more talented than I expected. In any case, today's earnings weren't bad, but after causing such a ruckus, it will be hard to get into anymore." Casinos, thinking this, and knowing he still needed to earn around 20,000 more pesos to repay the merchant Darren, Simone had to find another source of income. "Are there other places to make money besides the casinos?" he asked Philip. Hearing the question, Philip racked his brain for a moment. "A place to make a lot of money. In that case, how about the giant arena?" "A giant arena?" Simone asked with curiosity. Knowing his young master had amnesia, Philip explained, "Yes, just like the arenas of old where humans fought one another, now there are arenas where giants battle one another. The betting odds vary depending on the match, but if you bet well, you can make 30,000 pesos or possibly even more," Philip said calmly. After witnessing Simone's skills, it seemed Philip's own gambling spirit had been awakened. Back to Simone when it came to the field of golems. This was truly his area of expertise. "Let's see. I was once very interested in giants. If they are enhanced with golem magic, that could be useful in predicting the winner," Simone thought. Unaware of his master's thoughts, Philip proudly said, "Just trust me, young master, I was the top cadet at the military academy." "Of royal giants?" Simone nodded. "I see. Take me there first." "You can trust me even more, young master," Philip said, happily running ahead to lead the way. However, they had not gone far when a shouting voice drew their attention. "You scum! I told you not to come here!" "I told you to stay in your designated zone. Is it that you'll only listen once you're dead?" A soldier yelled while continuously stomping on children who were huddled on the ground protecting their heads. Seeing this spectacle, even Philip couldn't bear to watch. "Good heavens, treating children like that," he said in disbelief. 500 years. The world has changed, but some things remain the same. Some things are rotten, and with time they only decay further. As he watched the scene, Simone clenched his jaw. Just as he was about to intervene, a woman's voice suddenly called out from behind, "Stop that!" Hearing the shout, the soldiers paused their actions and turned towards the sound. Who's there, they wondered. Aren't you the royal guards? Tasked with the duty of protecting the citizens? Then why are you being violent with these children? Are only the aristocrats considered your people? These children have a right to be protected as well. The voice belonged to a noble lady. Upon seeing her face, Simone was stunned for a moment. A name suddenly surfaced in his mind, Katerina. Meanwhile, the soldiers recognized the young lady's identity and answered, "It's no use even if you are a princess. These are the Count's orders. Do you know how anxious people have become because of these refugees?" In response, the noble lady argued, "So it's right to coop people up like cattle in an uninhabitable place. These innocent children have already lost their homeland and their families. And if they were truly at fault, I would be the first to punish them. Before I became a princess of Volga, I too was a refugee searching for a safe haven," she declared firmly. However, her arguments only gave the soldiers a headache. "Princess, if you continue like this, you'll only cause more trouble. We don't want to do this either, but this is an order from the Count," both of them said with a sigh, while Philip, on the other hand, watched with interest. He turned to his young master and remarked, "Things are getting tense. Is this going to be a problem?" Upon hearing this, Simone immediately asked, "Do you know who that girl is?" "Of course. She's quite famous in the Vonga kingdom. Even though she's a princess, she doesn't care what the nobles think. I don't know why. But I heard her kingdom has fallen. I never expected to meet Princess Gina here." Back to Simone, the more he looked at Princess Zina, the more certain he became of his suspicion. "Zina, no matter how I look at her. That's definitely Katerina. Did she reincarnate like me, but why does she still look the same?" As Simone wondered to himself, a soldier saw Princess Gina reaching out to help the children and rushed forward, grabbing her wrist tightly to stop her. "Princess Gina, my apologies, but I can't let you do that." "If you keep this up, we'll be punished," he said forcefully, pulling her slender body to one side, while the other soldier seized the opportunity to grab the children, to take them away. "What do you think you're doing?" she yelled, but this intervention seemed to push the soldier to his breaking point. "Ugh, stop bothering us," he shouted loudly, causing Princess Gina to cry out in fear. Seeing this as if by instinct, Simone's eyes widened and he charged straight at the guard. "Get your filthy hands off her now," he said. He then landed a punch right in the soldier's face. Just like that, Simone's two fists pummeled his face like a machine, causing his nose to bleed uncontrollably. As he threw the punches, he reminded himself that no matter how much time passes or how the world changes, scumbags like this will always exist. They'll never go away. With each of Simone's punches, a few of the soldiers' teeth flew out, until finally even Princess Gina couldn't watch anymore and rushed over to pull him back. "Please stop! You don't have to go this far," she said weakly, causing Simone to pause for a moment. However, taking this opportunity, the other guard drew his sword, aiming it at Simone from behind. "You fool, you dare attack a royal guard! It seems you have no fear of royal law, do you?" he threatened loudly. However, the soldier had forgotten one thing. Besides Simone, his escort was also there. Philip was also present. "Is that royal law of yours more important than a human life?" he said, resting his sword on the guard's neck to warn him against any foolish moves. With no other choice, he had to help his comrade away. But before leaving, he didn't forget to utter a few meaningless threats. "Just you wait, you'll pay for this." Hearing this, Philip knew that trouble was on its way. So he said to Simone, This is no time to be going to the giant Colosseum. We need to go now before things get worse." Back to Simone after being dazed for a few seconds. He hurriedly turned to the princess and asked, "Katerina, are you all right?" I'm sorry I lost control for a moment. I should have stepped in sooner." In response to his words, the princess, looking a bit bewildered, replied, I'm fine. But who are you anyway?" Across from her, Simone's face went blank upon hearing her question. He asked in a daze, What do you mean?" "But," Simone said, stepping forward. However, his movement made Jenna wary. "Don't come any closer," she said quickly. At this, Simone stopped in his tracks. That's right. I must look a bit different. That's why you don't recognize me, right? I'll explain everything," Simone said hastily. But Jenna's wariness towards him did not diminish in the slightest. She even retorted with a question of her own. "That's not necessary. How are you any different from those guards who brutalize children? More importantly, it seems you've mistaken me for someone else. My name is not Katerina, I am Jenna." Behind them, Philip the escort noticed his young master's suddenly strange behavior. He rushed over to defuse the situation. "Oh my goodness, it seems my young master is a bit confused. Your Highness, we are not suspicious individuals. The truth is, he's just going through some things." Philip scratched his head awkwardly, giving Simone a chance to process the situation. While he was explaining, our protagonist also had a moment to cool his head. "It would have been so great if it was really her. Please. I've endured this loneliness for so long. Knowing that she could never come back, I've become this broken. Just because they look alike," Simone thought, observing the princess's face. At that moment, an older man rushed over and called out to Jenna. Princess, what are you doing there? I told you that you have a very important schedule today. Do you have any idea how much trouble I went through to find you? This man was Jenna's butler, Victor. Upon his arrival, the princess stepped aside and began to answer, "Oh, it's you, Victor. What happened was—" But he cut her off. The old man irritably surmised, "Don't tell me you went and caused trouble with those guards again." He paused, then cautiously observed the two of them, Simone and his companion. "And who might these people be? This is our first meeting. Forgive me, but due to certain circumstances, the situation is rather tense. It would be best if you two kept your distance from the princess," he said coldly. This prompted a sarcastic laugh from Simone. "Ha ha, how foolish. While it's true that I misunderstood and escalated things at the end of the day, didn't I also help the princess? I don't expect any reward, but you could at least thank me. Let's go," Philip, Simone said, and then quickly left the area. Seeing them leave, Victor also said to Xena, "We should be on our way as well." "All right." Jenna nodded before realizing something. "Come to think of it, I never did thank him." Time passed quickly, the scene shifting to a massive cylindrical structure. This was the giant Colosseum that Philip had mentioned to Simone earlier. At this time, inside the Colosseum, two announcers were enthusiastically commentating, "Neither giant wants to back down in this tense battle. Now everyone stay calm. Yes, this is getting exciting." He quickly blocked the attack, but it's over, Simone muttered. And just as he predicted, the axe-wielding giant in the arena unleashed a decisive blow, sending its opponent flying, far away, leaving the opponent unable to get back up. With this result, the MC quickly announced the result. "That's the finishing blow, Aiden wins." As the announcement echoed, the entire audience on all four sides of the stands erupted in cheers. Cheering loudly, Philip was among them because they had just won another bet. "Oh, young master, you were right again. At this rate, we'll pay off our debts and be filthy rich in no time," he said with a bright smile. As for Simone, however, more than the money, he was interested in the structure of these golems. Through his eyes, he could clearly see the energy circuits flowing inside their bodies. "If this is all there is to it, it's too simple. The giants rely solely on the magical power of the golems. That's why I can easily predict the winner. By looking at their mana circuits," Simone thought to himself. Back with the two announcers after congratulating the winner, they quickly introduced the next match. "This one looks like it's going to be a bloodbath. Next up, a match between Savage and Sting." Hearing the two of them announce this, Philip spoke up before Simone could even make a prediction. "I can already tell how this one's going to end. How can Sting with 1 win and 5 losses possibly beat Savage, who has 28 wins and 2 losses? Hearing the records of the two seamen had to nod in agreement. Although an upset is always a possibility, this match already seems decided. With that said, the two of them turned their attention to the arena where the two combatants had just entered to greet the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, and take a good look at that pair of super-sized giant axes. They have never spared the life of any giant. This is the dual axe Savage, piloted by Brian." At this point, the MC turned his gaze to the other corner of the arena and continued. "And his opponent, the one who won. By a miracle in his previous match, the lucky giant who just scraped by with a lucky win. And now it's Savage versus Sting, piloted by Karen." Back to Simone, after observing both contestants, his eyes suddenly lit up with a spark of interest. "Oh ho, Philip bet everything on Sting." Hearing his young master say that, Philip broke out in a cold sweat. "What are you saying, my lord? Sting Savage will definitely win this match." In response to these words, Simone's eyes remained fixed on the golem Sting as he mumbled, "I wonder if the winner this time will be someone different." Just like that, the two colossal giants began to charge straight at each other. The collision of their weapons created a deafening explosion in the air, and looking at the two combatants clashing, trading blows tit for tat like this, the surrounding spectators were endlessly astonished. What is going on? Today, Shin is putting on a surprising performance, shattering everyone's expectations of a painful defeat. He's blocking every attack from Savage, the announcer exclaimed excitedly. Meanwhile, Savage, seeing that Shin could block his attacks, only grew more thrilled. "Ha ha ha, I thought you were just an amateur, but who knew you had some skill? However, it's still not enough to satisfy me." With that, he swung his two axes in an X shape, striking Shin's body, directly sending the massive frame flying backward. Seeing this spectacle, our friend Philip felt that the money he had just won, before he could even get his hands on it, was already preparing to bid its owner a final farewell. "Oh God, you can't lose, Shin," Philip cried out. Meanwhile, Simone, watching the battle unfold, narrowed his eyes in confusion. "Shin has the advantage in mana." Just what in the world is he thinking? back to the battle after being hit by that last attack. One of the arms of the golem he was controlling was completely severed. Seeing this, Savage took the opportunity to laugh triumphantly. "Ha ha, give up, you little rat, your legs are still bound." "If you can't fight it anymore, then I'll just destroy you more quickly." As he spoke, Savage began to raise his pair of twin axes. Up above, Philip, seeing that the match seemed to be over, became completely frantic. "What should we do?" "We're gonna lose all the money we bet." Unconcerned with this lamenting, Simone was still focused on the battle. Following his gaze, just as the two axes chopped straight down toward Shin, the giant golem's body suddenly erupted with bolts of lightning. At the same time, the giant twin axes swung straight down, creating a large crater in the ground. However, once the dust settled, Savage realized there was no one in front of him, because Shin's body had leaped into the air. "Did you know that you can change your bet during giant matches?" "Up to the final 1 to 30 seconds of the match, and now that time has passed. There's no room for error. Grand firefall," he muttered. Simultaneously in front of him, Shin's hand formed a massive magic circle, and from within it, a searing pillar of fire shot straight towards Savage, causing the colossal golem to be instantly scorched to a crisp and collapse onto the ground. The situation had suddenly turned, making it hard for everyone to believe. "How is this possible? We have an unprecedented event here today. Our champion, the one who has overcome 20-1 odds with an elemental skill, his name is Shin," the announcer shouted, declaring the victory of the match. Looking at this result, our friend Philip was so happy he started to cry. "Wow, we won. I really can't believe it." Back to Simone, the sight of Shin using magic also left him speechless. "He just used magic. Unbelievable," he said, his voice filled with astonishment. Seeing this, Philip took the opportunity to explain, "Knight Karen of Sting must be a knight who uses runes. Isn't it quite common to see a giant using magic? He probably hid his power to increase his chances of winning." Back to Simone, there was actually something about the situation that caught his attention more. "No, that's not what's important. The basic theory behind using magic through a weapon is something I developed, and that method, no matter how much time has passed, has never been replicated by others. That's because I perfected the process by using black magic." Simone thought, his brows furrowed. Time passed quickly, and the scene changed to some kind of mechanical workshop. This was the Hangar G Giant Arena. At this moment, Simone and his servant were also here for some reason. Beside him, his guard, Philip, complained as they walked. "Why did you want to come to a place like this, my lord? Shouldn't we be heading back as soon as possible?" Back to Simone, he was deep in thought, and Philip's constant chattering in his ear was starting to annoy him. "Be quiet. I'm busy thinking." "And you're not helping at all," Simone said through gritted teeth before Victor's voice caught their attention. "You can still change your mind. How could you agree to a giant match like this? You shouldn't have accepted that fight in the first place," he said worriedly. Hearing this, Princess Gina replied a bit flustered, "But a mercenary like Andre will have no trouble piloting Emmett to fight against the Count's giant." Hearing their argument, Philip was a bit surprised. "Oh, we've run into Princess Gina again. It seems they're having some problems, huh?" he mumbled, and continued to eavesdrop on the conversation. At that moment, the old butler, Victor, continued to persuade the princess. "Princess, why did you agree to such a duel? But you'll have to marry the Count if you lose. This is no small matter." "I chose very carefully. If I hadn't, countless refugees would have starved to death. To save everyone, this is the only way." As she said this, a look of sadness appeared in her eyes, but her reasoning only made Victor angrier. "Impossible! How is sacrificing your future a viable option? With a collapsing giant, you are certain to lose. You want to protect the refugees. But what about your own life? Why don't you find the way to protect your own life?" he yelled. Not far away, Simone overheard and pieced together the story, but he didn't want to waste time listening to their tale. So he started to leave. "Let's go, Philip. She's done for. Let's head back." "Ah, understood," Philip replied and quickly followed his young master. As they walked, Simone reminded himself, "That's right, she's not Katarina. I don't need to get too deeply involved in this." With that, he quickened his pace. However, the next words from a young man made him stop in his tracks. "That's right. You're selling yourself, princess. The Count is a man who will stop at nothing to get what he wants. He has threatened many refugees before. Without you, princess, the refugees would truly be at a disadvantage, and if you don't replace the Mana Stone at all, this giant won't even be able to operate. Even so, the difference in its specs and the Count's giant is too great to fight. You should listen to your butler." The speaker was a young man with orange hair. Judging by his clothes, he seemed to be a mechanic. Opposite him, Jenna fully understood what he was trying to convey. I know that all too well. But I can't give up. If I lose without even trying, then who will stand up for the weak? As she spoke, she couldn't hold back her emotions and burst into tears. Then, for some unknown reason, Simone walked back towards their group and offered, "Then could you let me take a look? That mana stone and this giant. I think they can still be used," he offered. However, this kindness was met with a wary gaze from Victor, who even drew his sword, preparing for the worst. "Get back, princess! This is too coincidental to be random. They could be assassins sent by Count Monach." On the other side, Simone, who had kindly offered to help the group, only to be met with such slander, was starting to lose his temper even if he were a saint. "Hey, you're being a real pain in the neck," Simone growled, but luckily Philip, seeing the tense situation, stepped in to explain. "Haha, please lower your sword. This is Duke Simone de Lacan." The 15th descendant of the Lacan family and the current lord heard this explanation. Victor still didn't let his guard down in the slightest. "The heroic Lacan family, how could we possibly trust that?" The old man frowned as he spoke, but Princess Gina stepped forward to stop him. "Victor, please calm down. Princess." The old man grumbled, seeing her let her guard down so easily. However, Jenna paid no mind to his words. Instead, she turned to look at Simone. "I apologize for our previous encounter. It seems you've heard about our current situation. I'm quite embarrassed to admit it. But we have no other choice. If I may, I would like to ask another favor of you. I beg you." "That's enough." Before she could say more, Simone raised his hand to stop her. "All right. To make sure I'm not mistaken this time, I will demonstrate my skills." After saying that, he took out a dagger and walked towards the giant golem. However, this orange-haired mechanic heard Simone's declaration. He just shook his head with a heavy sigh. "Hey, princess, not just anyone can repair a giant." Hearing this, the man in the iron helmet beside him also nodded in agreement. "There's a reason giant specialists are called steel mages. I wonder if he'll just damage the giant even more. Those spoiled nobles with their big egos always think they know everything," they said sarcastically. And hearing them speak ill of his young master, how could Philip possibly endure it? Immediately, he walked over, put his arms around both of them, and issued a challenge. "So you two want to make a bet with me? I'll bet 10,000 pesos that our young master can easily handle the giant that you two bastards couldn't fix. Why should we accept that offer?" The orange-haired guy yelled. "Don't want to, huh?" Philip taunted. "Scared," Philip said, looking at him with a provocative gaze which seriously wounded the guy's pride. "What did you say, scared? Fine, I'll double the bet," he challenged back. At the same time, a curious Princess Jenna approached and asked Philip, "May I ask a question? With a tool like that, can he really repair the giant?" she said, pointing towards Simone, who at that moment only held a small dagger in his hand. Seeing Simone holding something so unrelated to repairs, Philip's usual confidence suddenly halved. Then, under the group's suspicious gazes, Simone immediately used the dagger to slash his own arm. A wound immediately appeared on his palm. Seeing this, Philip thought his young master had gone mad. "Young master!" His voice filled with worry. As for Simone, seeing his guards scream over every little thing, he couldn't help but feel annoyed. "Be quiet, Philip, just watch." With that said, he reached out and lightly touched the body of the giant golem in front of him. Next, Simone began to use some kind of dark magic. Immediately, he shouted a single word, "Revive," causing countless energy circuits to appear and spread across the giant golem's body, the glowing lines looking as if they had come back to life, reflecting in everyone's astonished eyes. Flashing back 500 years ago after using his golem army to wipe out all the intruders. At his own castle, Simone looked directly at the giant stone golem kneeling before him and mumbled, "Will you all really fall in a place like this? You are immortal beings, the ones who led your enemies to hell. Answer my summons once more." With that said, Simone began to use his dark magic. Streams of black energy began to spread out, and as soon as it touched the bodies of the golems, their eyes lit up. They began to rise once more, their bodies slowly recovering as if they had never been damaged. Returning to the present once again using his dark magic, he had successfully revived the golem before him. Seeing it operational again, Philip joyfully exclaimed, as expected of the young master, "I believed in you." Nearby, the orange-haired mechanic and his colleague couldn't believe what had just happened before their eyes and collapsed to their knees. "That's impossible," he mumbled, while the two of them, Jenna and Victor, were also completely astonished. "He really did it. Mir is operational once again. How is this possible?" As he spoke, he stared intently at the young master before him, speculating in disbelief. He was able to revive a dead mana stone. In my entire life, I've never heard of such magic existing. Not just this continent. The entire world will be astonished by this historic event, he thought to himself. Afterwards, Simone finished his work, nodded, and walked towards the others. Seeing this, Philip took the opportunity to praise the young master. Is there truly anything you can't do? I'd even believe it if you said you could create a golem from those stones. Behind the group, as if still unable to accept what had happened, the orange-haired guy pointed directly at Simone and declared, "That's impossible! There must be some kind of trick involved." Drawing a magic circle with blood and activating it? That sounds like dark magic, doesn't it? I cannot acknowledge that. Hearing their words, Philip considered whether he should draw his sword and teach these two insolent fools a lesson. How dare you claim that the sole heir of the Lacan family uses dark magic? Well, because no matter how you look at it, that's what it was, the orange-haired guy stammered. As for Simone, knowing that many rumors would arise if he didn't explain things clearly, he stepped forward, to come up with some reason to explain it. It's all right, I will explain. The truth is, this is a secret art passed down in our family, kept hidden for nearly 500 years. Hearing this answer, the two mechanics were still somewhat skeptical. A family's secret art. What kind of swordsman family would have a magical secret art like this? He said doubtfully, and it had to be admitted his suspicion was entirely correct. However, Princess Gina was very clever. She guessed that Simone had his own secrets. So she didn't let the conversation go any further, speaking up to stop it. That isn't important right now. Even if it was dark magic, you saved countless lives. I don't know how I can ever repay you. Thank you so much. I also want to apologize for what happened before, she said, her eyes filled with guilt. Seeing this, Simone gently shook his head and waved his hand. Well, it's all right. It's not surprising that you misunderstood. Hearing that, Jenna stepped forward, took out a handkerchief, and began to wipe the remaining blood from Simone's hand. No, you were injured because of me, so please at least let me take care of you. Looking at this action, Simone's gaze grew somewhat reminiscent, and he didn't stop her. If it makes you feel better, then go ahead. And so, just when it seemed everything was settled with Simone's help, it wasn't. After the robot was fixed, another problem arose as a man in a servant's uniform came running in a panic to inform Princess Gina. There's a huge problem. What's wrong? Why have you come here shouting like this? Victor asked worriedly, sensing that something bad was about to happen. In response to this question, the servant, after taking a few breaths to get some oxygen, explained everything. He's gone. He's not in the waiting room, and I've searched all over the inn, but I can't find Sir Andre anywhere, he said in a panic, causing the princess's face to go blank. At that same moment, in a certain luxurious room, a long table was laden with food, and servants continuously brought out new dishes, all to serve the blonde young master who was having a meal. While eating, he spoke, "We've succeeded in recruiting Andre, so now the princess has no knights left to use." Hearing these words, although not wanting to ruin his mood, another person spoke up to remind him, it seems they've successfully repaired their giant. After hearing this information, the young master's mood suddenly changed. Didn't you say their giant couldn't be activated? He asked in a cold voice. Yes, that was the case. But recently The other person tried to explain. However, before he could finish his sentence, he was slapped hard across the face, sending him tumbling to the floor. I'm sorry, the black-haired man said fearfully, but the young master's rage hadn't subsided in the slightest. I hate apologies the most. If you've made a mistake, get lost. You're fired, he said, grinding his teeth. This blonde man was the lord of the llama territory. After dismissing his subordinate, Count Monach irritably turned to the remaining servants and said, I've completely lost my appetite. Is there nothing else, no, my lord? Another person hurriedly replied. There cannot be even the slightest possibility of a problem, not until Princess Jaina is completely mine. Soon everyone will find out what kind of man the master of Monach is, he said, while looking at the giant night golem before him. And just like that, time quickly passed. The day of the betting match between Jenna and Monach arrived. Since this was also a public battle, everyone had gathered at the arena early on to observe this battle. Before the battle began, the two familiar announcers explained a bit about the achievements of both sides, and now, last but not least, we have the battle between Princess Jaina's Mir versus Achilles, the champion of the Llama territory with 78 victories and not a single loss. Let's see what Mir has prepared to face this undefeated champion. This is an incredibly intense match, however, Mir is nowhere to be seen in the arena. Could they have forfeited the final match? The announcer said skeptically, and upon hearing his words, the surrounding audience began to jeer and curse relentlessly. "Hey, did you get scared and run away? Hey, give us our money back!" they shouted in unison. Meanwhile, from his observation room, Count Monach looked out at the scene below. He chuckled smugly to himself. "Heh, did you forfeit because you have no knight? That's why Princess Jenna should have accepted my marriage proposal from the start. I'll show you the consequences of daring to wound my pride." Flashing back to when Simone's group had just received the news that the knight Andre had fled. Where did Andre go? I can't find him anywhere. It seems Count Monach has tricked us, the young attendant said bitterly, while the butler Victor couldn't bring himself to believe it. "Andre is a loyal subordinate. Are you saying he has betrayed us?" Hearing this young man also stammered out a piece of information he had overheard somewhere. Actually, someone saw him entering the Count's mansion. Back to Victor at this point, even though he didn't want to, he had to accept the truth and roared in frustration. Damn it, even without Andre's betrayal, there was already a power gap between our giants. I can't believe he would be so despicable. This isn't just about crushing us with power. The more the old man spoke, the more his blood seemed to boil, while the princess, Gina, had unconsciously started trembling in fear. Back to Simone, seeing Gina's predicament, he decided to help her through and made a suggestion. "Then you'll be forced to marry him, right? If it's not too much trouble, I think I can help you with this." Hearing this, Jenna's eyes lit up a little and she turned to ask, "How do you plan to do that?" Behind Simone, his friend Philip also spoke up to remind him, "Young master, it's not that I don't trust you, but have you forgotten the accident that happened last time you tried to pilot a giant?" In response, Simone gave his guard a confident look. "Don't worry, piloting a giant is simple." Returning to the present while everyone was jeering, the giant Mir stepped out from the other side of the arena. "Oh, we thought Mir had forfeited the match, but there he is." He entered the arena just in time. He didn't run even when facing the undefeated Achilles. As for Count Monach, he watched the warrior Golem appear. His expression immediately turned to anger, and he tightened his grip on the glass in his hand. "Didn't you say the princess's side had no more? Another scholar, you say?" He coldly questioned the subordinate behind him. "I'm certain they have no knights left." The subordinate affirmed this. Hearing that Monach made a guess, so did the princess hire a mercenary. Impossible. I'm sure she realizes the importance of this match. But for someone to be so foolish as to dare side with the princess in my territory? Meanwhile, in another corner of the stands, Jenna and Victor were also present. "Mr. Victor, what about the match?" she asked worriedly. "We're not too late. Luckily, we made it just in time," Victor replied. Hearing this, the princess let out a sigh of relief. "Thank goodness. But will this really be okay?" At a glance, the performance difference between the giants is huge, and the opposing knight is the champion of the llama territory, she said as she looked at the two golems below. And just a quick glance at their sizes made even Jaina herself doubt that she could really win. In response to this, Simone from behind spoke up to reassure them everything will be fine. Although he usually seems quite naive that man's skills are anything but ordinary. Inside the mere golem, our friend Philip, who was piloting it, was also muttering. "Young master, why would you do this to me?" he complained under his breath. Back to the battle, the announcer's voice continued to ring out the giant Mir who we all predicted would forfeit. "Has arrived just in time." However, as we can see, the difference in specifications is quite clear, especially when facing the undefeated champion, Achilles. From the audience's perspective, looking at the size disparity between the two, they couldn't understand who would set up such a lopsided match. "That giant, are they really going to fight? Ha ha ha, unbelievable. They should just run. Calling that piece of junk a giant, can it even move?" The crowd burst out laughing at Mir's shabby appearance. As for Achilles, the fact that Mir didn't run away had earned a certain amount of his respect. "I commend you for not running away. However, you must know how this match will end." "I don't intend to hold back," he said, tightening his grip on the mace in his hand. On the opposite side, Philip calmly replied, "We won't know until we try." "Ha ha, very well. Let us put that confidence to the test." Saying that, Achilles swung his giant mace straight at Philip, creating a large crater in the ground. Luckily, Philip had anticipated this attack. So at the same moment, he piloted his golem to jump aside and dodge the blow. Just looking at its destructive power made Philip's scalp tingle. If I were unlucky enough to take a hit like that, this golem would be turned into scrap metal. His power is indeed as great as his size, but just being big and strong doesn't make youth a good warrior. As he spoke, Philip took the opportunity after Achilles' attack to rush in close. However, Achilles also reacted extremely quickly. Before the guard could even get close, he swung the mace once more, forcing Philip to quickly lower his golem's body to be able to dodge. He's too fast. This is dangerous, Philip thought to himself. Meanwhile, seeing that Philip could only dodge Achilles, let out a taunt. It seems your confidence was just baseless. Hearing these words, our Philip couldn't offer any rebuttal. This is bad. That pilot is at least a veteran knight. And so it went. As time passed, the arena was smashed to pieces under Achilles' onslaught. Attack even more now Achilles continued to unleash a barrage of attacks towards Mir. It seemed like the match would end soon. But Mir hasn't been hit by a single blow, the announcer's voice rang out as at that moment. In everyone's eyes, despite possessing incredibly powerful attacks, not a single one of Achilles' strikes could touch Mir. Looking at the way Philip dodged these attacks, it felt as if he were toying with Achilles. Back with Simone's group, although they were extremely impressed with Philip's evasive abilities, old Victor was still terrified. It's incredible, but you can't win by just running away like that. Hearing this, Princess Gina turned and whispered to him, Victor, don't worry. The young duke said that Philip is a very strong knight. Just trust in him. He could hear all the whispers of the two people beside him. However, Simone's gaze remained focused on the battle. Hey, I can hear you. He's faced countless different knights, so he's definitely a skilled knight, but he needs more training. Asterisk. What on earth is he doing, Asterisk? Simone wondered as he watched Philip scampering away while Achilles pursued him relentlessly. But after running for a while, Philip started to feel a bit annoyed. Damn it, doesn't this guy ever get tired? Asterisk, if that's the case, how about a sneak attack, Asterisk, he thought. Philip immediately had the golem turn around, and before Achilles could react, he swung his sword straight at his opponent. However, his attack didn't even leave a single scratch on that giant armor. The only effect of that attack was to make Achilles even more furious. So you finally want to fight for real? Then I'll go all out too. After speaking, Achilles leaped into the air, simultaneously raising his mace, and seeing this move of his, the two commentators shouted excitedly, "Oh, there it is! That's the champion's finishing move! Will Mir be able to dodge it this time?" Staring at the devastating attack before him, Philip could only manage a strained smile. Asterisk, man, I'm so dead. And just like that, a loud bang echoed across the four corners of the arena as a massive explosion kicked up a thick cloud of dust. But when the smoke and dust cleared, Achilles' surprised voice rang out, "I can't believe you managed to dodge that," he said, glancing at Philip behind him. In response, Philip's voice changed slightly. "Uncle Roger will kill me if he finds out about this. But what else can I do now? I must win because the young master has placed his hopes in me. You will regret this moment for the rest of your life for making me unleash my full power," Philip declared resolutely. Feeling the change in the atmosphere emanating from him, Achilles' expression changed, becoming more serious than ever. Asterisk, heh, but to have an aura of that magnitude at such a young age. I can tell from your movements. It seems I've finally met a worthy opponent. Just as he finished speaking, a holographic screen suddenly appeared before him. The person in the frame was none other than Count Monach, wearing a foul expression as if he'd just been bitten by a dog. "What the hell are you doing struggling against that piece of trash? Are you insane? You know the consequences if you lose, don't you?" He gritted his teeth and shouted, "I apologize for disappointing you, my lord. From now on, I will give you the performance you requested," he said. It's unknown what the knight did, but Achilles' golem erupted with a powerful aura, blowing away all the surrounding dust. Then he powered up his legs and charged forward. "Let's have a fair fight another day." Having said that, Achilles brought his mace back, preparing to deliver a heaven-shattering blow. Seeing this, Philip on the other side had the same thought. "Sorry, I'm busy too. I can't take on another match." After that, before everyone's eyes, the devastating blow from Achilles came crashing down, making the entire arena seem to tremble for a moment. But the blow only hit the ground. The figure of the golem Mir was nowhere to be seen. "It's vanished," Achilles said curiously, before he realized that his own right arm had been severed. Stunned, he looked at Philip's current form, and a certain memory resurfaced in his mind. This aura and this speed, could it be Asterisk? I remember now. Asterisk. He disappeared 3 years ago. The undefeated legend of the giant arena. The Black Knight's demon sword. Just as he finished the thought, Philip, controlling Mir, charged forward. He unleashed a slash that cut through Achilles' body, officially putting an end to the battle. Staring at the shocking outcome, the two announcers were frozen for 2 seconds before they could declare the result. "Incredible, something completely unexpected has happened. Achilles is incapacitated. In the blink of an eye, the winner is mere the underdog. Hearing this unexpected result, the crowd on all four sides began to roar the name Mir, echoing throughout the arena. Meanwhile, down below, Achilles' laughter rang out. "Ha ha, to think I'd meet the Black Knight here." Hearing this, Philip turned slightly and asked, "You know me. I fought you at the Royal Arena 3 years ago. You disappeared after a 6-win streak. Why have you appeared here?" Achilles asked. "Well, I'm a Black Knight. Helping people is normal for me, isn't it?" Philip said with a shrug before asking Achilles a favor. "Sorry, but can you keep it a secret that I'm the Black Knight?" Sure. "I'm getting fired anyway," Achilles replied nonchalantly, which made Philip feel a bit guilty. "Really? Well, I'm sorry about that." Cutting to the stands above the old man, Victor saw that Philip had won. He couldn't hold back his tears. "Princess, we won." The old man spoke through his tears, and beside him, Princess Gina couldn't hide the joy on her face. "Oh, Victor, why are you crying on such a joyous occasion?" As she spoke, she couldn't hold back her own tears. Watching the two of them, Simone gave a slight smile and quietly left the stands. Rose, it seems this will be fine. Anyway, I can finally leave this place with peace of mind. Next, Simone quickly walked over to a board listing the betting odds for the matches, and looked at the odds for the battle between Philip and Achilles. Simone grinned so widely he couldn't close his mouth. Asterisk. No matter how many times I think about it, gambling is all about riding the wave. The odds on Mir were 21-1. I bet the entire 10,000 pesos I had. Asterisk. This world really makes it easy to earn money. To summarize the money Simone earned this time, total income from selling statues was 3,000 pesos. Taking that to gamble, Simone earned another 3,000 pesos for a total of 6,000 pesos. Income from the previous giant matches was 4,000 pesos. That brought his total income to 10,000 pesos, which multiplied by 21 after Philip's victory came to a grand total of 210,000 pesos. Time passed quickly and the scene changed to the harbor, because they had finished everything they needed to do here. Simone and Philip were thus preparing to leave this place. Before they parted ways, Jenna and Victor came to see them off. "I suppose it's time for us to leave." Simone spoke up. Hearing that, Princess Jaina nodded. "We can't thank you enough for everything you've done. You don't need to worry about that. All we did was help out within our means." Simone waved his hand dismissively, but Princess Gina still looked regretful. "But helping us like this, I must have been very difficult. We wish we could express our gratitude properly." As for Simone, he was helping Jenna for his own ideals. He wasn't expecting any reward. "Haha, it's all right. I think you've already given us more than enough. If we hadn't met you, we would never have earned this much. To be honest, I'd love to stay here longer, but we've caused such a big commotion. I think it's better that we leave before my identity is exposed," Simone explained calmly, and the intelligent princess quickly understood the issue. After all, Simone and his companion had fought the guards to help her. "Oh, now I see the full picture. I hope I haven't made things too complicated for you," she said, her voice tinged with guilt. But Simone wasn't too worried about it. After all, he was about to disappear from this island anyway. "There's no need to worry about us. However, I think it would be better for you to leave this area as soon as possible, if he's willing to go to such lengths. He won't give up that easily. He's likely already planning his next move." Simone advised, and the old butler Victor completely agreed with this suggestion. "That's right, Princess. We need to leave while Count Monach has no reason to keep us here." Simone added to the old man's words. "I understand you're worried about the refugees, but even if you stay here, there's nothing you can do to help all of them. For the sake of a better future, I think it would be wiser for you to take a step back for now." Before he could finish, the princess suddenly cut in, "I've come to my senses. However, this will be quite difficult for me. I may seem stubborn and foolish right now, but I cannot abandon my people when they have no one else to rely on, even if it's only a little. I want to help as many of them as possible." Her eyes were filled with determination as she spoke. Simone was a little taken aback, but he quickly broke into a smile and nodded. "I understand. In that case, please stay safe." Saying that, he also extended his hand forward, and the princess reached out her small hand, grasped his firmly, and replied, "I hope you also return safely from your journey." "Thank you. I look forward to the day we meet again." After saying goodbye to the princess's group, Simone and Philip quickly boarded a ship to leave the island. "Since you've solved such a big problem, all that's left is to return to our homeland and be bestowed the title of hero. But why did you bring those fools along?" "You should have scammed them out of their money," Philip said, glancing at the two mechanics they had met at the mere Golem's location. Our friend Philip still hadn't forgotten the 10,000 peso bet with them. In response to this question, Simone shrugged and reminded him, "Didn't you say that?" "We don't have any golem technicians in our territory." "Let's see. We really don't have any right now," Philip admitted. "Then how can we use the giant without anyone to repair it?" Simone said with a sidelong glance. However, this statement surprised Philip a bit because he had seen Simone fix it with his own eyes. A golem that had been broken down for ages. "Can't you fix it yourself?" Philip asked, and to this question, Simone didn't know if Philip was pretending to be stupid or was genuinely an idiot. "Are you an idiot? Do you know how to restore and repair a mana stone by yourself? Now you know why? You're still at the bottom of the chain of command." "Shut up and go protect our cargo!" Simone yelled, leaving our friend Philip to only weep and wail. "The young master is truly cruel." Time passed quickly. The scene changes to the Lacan family mansion. At this moment, the merchant Darren had arrived and was at the mansion preparing to collect their debt. "Why have you come here to collect our belongings?" "I thought we still had time," Butler Hans said in confusion, watching as Darren's soldiers were collecting the family's belongings as collateral. Turning to Darren, who sneered upon hearing the question. "Thanks for bringing that up. Young Master Lacan said he would pay off the debt like this. And I trusted him, but he betrayed that trust and fled in the middle of the night. So why should I wait?" As he shouted, our friend Philip, who had just returned, appeared behind the old man like a ghost and spoke up, startling the fat man. "You startled me. What is it?" Hearing the question, Philip smiled and replied, "My name is Philip. I am the young master's guardian knight." Upon hearing this, Darren's expression changed, and he asked again, "A guardian knight. Why are you here alone? Where did the young master go?" "Actually, I'm here to deliver something." As he spoke, Philip's group opened several wooden chests, revealing the shimmering gold coins inside, dazzling Darren's greedy eyes. "Impossible!" In less than a week, he managed to earn over 30,000 pesos. Does that mean I can't take over his territory anymore? The more the merchant Darren thought about it, the more he had an existential crisis over Simone's money-making ability. Meanwhile, Philip, wanting to get rid of him quickly, shouted at his subordinates, "You fools, can't you see Sir Darren here is busy? Hurry up and load the 30,000 pesos onto his carriage before we waste another second of his time." All right, all right. The two of them replied weakly and quickly loaded all the wooden chests onto the carriage. Meanwhile, seeing his plan fall apart, the fat man tried to salvage the situation. Now, there's no need to be in such a hurry. That's right, I'll wait to receive it directly from the young master." The old man stammered, and in response to this, Philip gave a slight smile, took out a piece of paper, and said, "This is a message from the young master for you, Sir Darren. Let's see. I assume you're already planning your next move, Darren. Now that we've paid off the debt, you will be considered a trespasser if you stay here to cause trouble, so I advise you to prepare yourself. According to Article 36, Section 34 of the Royal Law of Nobility, nobles whose territories or properties are trespassed upon have the right to execute the trespassers. Unless you want to be split in two, I advise you to leave right now." That's the end of the young master's message. "He also told me to give you 3 seconds. That's his final message," he said. Our friend Philip then drew his sword, making the fat old man's scalp tingle with fear. In the end, the old man could only take the money he received, and hastily drove his carriage away from this place. "You'll regret this," he uttered a meaningless threat. Watching the carriage drive away, Philip wasn't worried at all. At least those people know how terrifying the young master is. I'm fully aware of that myself. At the same time, Butler Han's group, still stunned by the situation before them, called out to Philip. Philip turned back emotionally and said to the group, "Everyone, you can rejoice now. The young master and I have finally—" Before he could finish, he noticed everyone's gazes seemed a bit different. "Philip, how dare you sell the Lacan family's wall?" "Right. I won't let you get away with this. And where did the young master go?" "Don't tell me something happened to him," Captain Rogers said as he grabbed Philip by the collar, scaring him so much that the whites of his eyes showed. "Philip, can you give me a moment?" Philip said hastily, but was met with a shout from Roger, "Stop making excuses and answer my question." With that said, he stared intently at Philip with his 2 large, bull-like eyes, making Philip afraid to meet his gaze. "The young master." At the same time, the scene shifts to the Demon King's tower. This was Simone's first time back here in 500 years. He gently pushed open the door and looked at the scene around him. Simone let out a sigh. "Ha, this place is a real mess. I guess that's to be expected. There's no way they could have taken good care of this place." As he spoke, he snapped his fingers, and instantly all the lamps inside the tower lit up with an eerie blue flame, making the atmosphere of the Demon King's castle even more fitting of its name. I suppose I should be thankful it's still standing after 500 years. As he said this, Simone noticed the red staircase to the side, and a memory surfaced, with his girlfriend, Katerina. This is the last place that holds my memories of Katerina. No matter what happens, I will protect it. However, this is the most important thing. I hope this still works. Saying that, Simone placed his hand on a nearby wall and channeled his magic power into it. The wall then emitted a brilliant light, and soon a secret door opened before Simone's eyes. Seeing that it still worked, Simone exclaimed happily, "I knew it! Thanks to the skill of the dwarves, it still works perfectly, even after 500 years. Now then, should I take what is rightfully mine?" Simone muttered to himself, his eyes shining brightly. With determination and a bit of excitement, he looked at the secret space that had just appeared. Then Simone entered the secret corridor leading underground. As he walked, he muttered, "The best way to break a curse is to possess magic power stronger than the curse itself. Well, that's ancient advice. But for now, it's the only way." At this, Simone paused and stared at the door before him. He gently pushed it open. Inside the room was a glass container with a red stone floating inside. Seeing that everything in the room was intact and untouched, Simone nodded in satisfaction. "The last time I was here was 5 centuries ago. The room is well protected. I prefer this quiet atmosphere. It's been a long time, Demon Hornet," Simone said, staring at the red stone before him. This story goes back 5 centuries to the demon territory, where Simone, with his power, had infiltrated this place all by himself. At that moment, he unleashed a death bullet technique, easily shattering the bodies of 2 demons that charged at him. After doing this, he also looked up in a certain direction and asked, "Are you the ruler of this place?" In response to the question, a small figure yawned listlessly. She was the High Demon Howard. "I heard you've taken down a few strongholds. I thought it would be some level 8 old man, but you're so young I'm a bit disappointed. Anyway, a human like you is quite interesting. I'm so moved that I'll do something for you. Call me whatever you wish. I'm merely satisfying your curiosity before you depart." Howard spoke with an incredibly confident tone, as if she had Simone in the bag, while our protagonist found her to be quite talkative. He felt it was a bit annoying. "You're the most talkative high demon I've ever met. Do demons get more talkative the higher their level?" He let out a sigh as if disappointed, and naturally his somewhat disdainful words enraged Howard. "You fool, I showed you mercy, yet you refuse it. You're arrogant just because you defeated a few low-level demons. I'll show you that the demons here are completely different from the ones you've faced before," following her words. The surrounding minions tightened their grips on their weapons, emitting a dangerous aura. However, Simone wasn't foolish enough to face this group alone. "Don't worry, I'm not crazy enough to enter the battlefield alone." Just as he finished speaking, a group of golems burst through the wall above him and charged in without a word. Both sides immediately clashed, and after an unknown amount of time, the final victory naturally belonged to Simone. Realizing she had been defeated, Howard voiced her own curiosity. "What do you plan to do by turning me into mana? Do you want to change the world or something?" He didn't answer the question. Simone said coldly, "You don't need to know that." "Be reborn as mana," he said. It's unknown what kind of magic he used, but it caused the High Demon's entire body to turn into a red stone, which was the very stone he kept in this jar. Recalling the battle with her in the past, he sighed inwardly. The whole process of defeating her was several times harder than the others. If you absorb mana improperly, you can go mad. I've witnessed people turn into hideous creatures because of it. Back then, I still couldn't absorb it. But by the time I learned the proper way to safely absorb mana, I had already reached level 9 and no longer needed it. I never expected to need it now 5 centuries later. As he spoke, Simone casually tossed the stone into his mouth and swallowed it. Immediately after, an intense pain racked his body. It caused him to cry out in agony. Then in a daze, Simone's consciousness was transported to a desert-like space. Is this the mental realm? It seems I wasn't devoured by the mana, Simone guessed inwardly. Next, he spotted the figure of Howard ahead, and she had spotted him too. However, Howard didn't recognize Simone's current appearance. "Who are you?" she asked simultaneously, releasing her aura. Simone's face contorted from the pressure she created, which was hard to bear in his current body. "It's been 500 years and she still has this much mana." Still holding on, thinking this, Simone spoke up. "I came here to borrow." Before he could finish, a glint appeared in Howard's eyes as she quickly deduced Simone's identity. "You're him," she said, and her body shot forward faster than an arrow, instantly grabbing Simone by the throat and pinning him to the ground with incredible ease. It even surprised herself. "What is this? You're this weak now. I almost didn't recognize you. So why have you come here?" "I told you. I need to borrow your vessel," Simone said through gritted teeth, which made the high demon above him burst out laughing at the audacious thought. "Ha ha, is that so? But are you sure with this feeble body? You can even use it. The enemy who imprisoned me here for centuries comes crawling back so pathetically, craving my power. Interesting, isn't it?" As the high demon spoke, her hand like an iron vice slowly tightened around Simone's neck, making him feel as if his head was about to be torn off. Damn it, she's going to crush my neck, he thought. To handle the immediate situation, Simone started talking to distract her. "Does this seem right? I came here to make a proposition. And you're just going to dispose of me like this." As he spoke, Simone calculated inwardly. "She wants to use my body as a source of magic so she won't harm me," he thought. And indeed, it was just as he had predicted. After hearing Simone's words, the female demon released his neck. "A proposition, you say? Well, at least I'll acknowledge your courage. But now that your magic circle is broken, can you even withstand my power?" Hearing this, Simone replied nonchalantly. "If I can't, then just take over my body. You've been trapped here for centuries. You have nothing to lose, right?" He wondered if there was a simpler solution. As if on cue, she snapped her fingers and immediately streams of black and red mana like venomous snakes shot out and coiled tightly around his limbs. "I will play with you for as long as I was imprisoned here. Shouldn't you at least be able to endure this much?" Howard said with amusement while Simone analyzed the power affecting his body. Is this mind control, he thought? But it was only for a few seconds before Howard noticed and began to increase the power of these black mana threads, causing Simone to scream in agony. "You still have time to think, huh? Brought down by mind magic. Where has all your pride gone?" she said gleefully. After hearing her, Simone managed a crooked smile. "You're as noisy as ever, huh?" Howard's expression shifted slightly, and she asked in a cold voice, "Is running your mouth all you can do? Do you think you still possess the same amount of mana and magic circles as in the past?" Across from her, Simone replied indifferently, "Even though I've become powerless with my broken magic circle, I, who reached the 9th magic circle with dark magic, will never fall to this kind of mind control magic." As he said this, Simone's figure suddenly vanished before Howard's eyes. Then his past self appeared, but in a giant form. He also reached out his hand towards the high demon, grabbing her small body and squeezing hard, causing Howard's vision to instantly go black. Next, because this was only the mental world very quickly, Howard's intact body reappeared, and with Simone having escaped her earlier mind control magic, she confirmed one thing. "I knew it, you really are interesting. But I never expected you could actually reach the 9th magic circle, so you don't believe me. Shall we continue playing?" Simone said with a smile, hearing that Howard wasn't foolish enough to play mind games with him anymore. "Enough. What I mean is, even if you reached that level, you still couldn't change the world." In response to this criticism, Simone slowly stood up and asserted, "No, it's not over yet. I will definitely change this world," he said with eyes full of determination, looking at Howard. Seeing Simone so confident, her mood seemed to turn a little amused. "I don't know how well you can utilize my power, but if it's you the one who reached the 9th circle, then perhaps—" "Of course," Simone replied confidently. "Haha, confident, aren't you?" "That's right. Even if I took over your body, the 6th or 7th circle would be my limit. I'll let you crush the world," Howard said cheerfully before her body slowly dissolved into streams of black mana. "I guess I'll have to try my best not to disappoint you," Simone said with a smile. "Of course, this time you absolutely cannot fail," Howard instructed. And just like that, not long after Simone's consciousness returned to his body, next he casually used a type of magic called Black Flame, aiming it at the wall. Looking at its destructive power, he quickly deduced his current strength. "It seems I've only reached the 3rd circle, but having a foundation like this is more than enough. Perhaps the mana has been purified, so its color looks a bit different than before. Anyway, if Howard had wanted to, she could have taken over my body. I must live up to her expectations," Simone muttered to himself, and quickly left the secret room. As he walked, he thought about his next plan. "I already know the theory of awakening. I've grasped the essence of each circle now, so achieving the 9th circle should be easy. However, gathering the mana to reach the 9th circle will take a very long time, so I must act immediately. With this thought, Simone's steps became a little more hurried. Next, he opened another secret room. You've been resting for 500 years. Get up and get to work. After saying this, Simone slammed his hand down onto the floor and created a complex magic circle. Now you all will have to help me, Simone said with a smile, looking at the stone golems before him. Time passed quickly. The scene shifts to the territory of Count Monach. At this moment, the man who controlled the golem Achilles was being punished by him for his failure. Milon, have you realized your mistake? He asked in a cold voice. I apologize, my lord. Please forgive my failure, Milon hastily replied. Hearing this, the count shrugged and continued, failure. Do you think it's just because of that match? No matter how I think about it, it's very strange. Despite the power gap being as much as 5 times, you still lost. Wouldn't anyone who saw it say you secretly conspired with Jenna? The more he spoke, the darker his face became, causing the alarm bells in Milon's heart to ring non-stop and urging him to explain. But I swore my loyalty to you. I would never do that. I swear on my honor as a knight that I would never do such a thing. Knight's honor, is that all you can say? Achilles sneered mockingly. At the same time, the henchman at his side raised the sword in his hand as if wanting to send him to his grave. With no other way to save his life, Milon had to speak up. I know a few things about the man who piloted that giant. 3 years ago, I faced him at the Royal Giant Arena. He was famous for being the undefeated knight. So who did they team up with? Monach asked. But as for that question, Milon had no answer. They left right after that. So no one knows their identities anymore. I see, then you are useless. Monach said this while gesturing with his eyes to his subordinates, causing Milon's face to turn pale. What I'll find him, I swear, please spare. Before he could finish, the sound of a sword slicing through the air rang out, ending the knight's life. Seeing that he had gone to meet his maker, Monach calmly left the room as if nothing had happened. Outside, a subordinate was waiting to report. Princess Gina has stayed in Lama, it seems, because of the refugees. Hearing this, Monach gritted his teeth, his eyes flashing with anger as he gave his orders. Understood. Continue to monitor her every move. Also find the one who is controlling Milon. Find him at all costs. I must see him with my own eyes to see if he will hinder. My plans are not. As he spoke, the count clenched his fists. Time passed and the scene shifts to a rundown area of a town. Looking at the door before him, Simone's voice rang out. From ancient times, the Lacan family flourished like a flowing river through fertile lands, surrounding them. But as time passed, most of the people left, leaving behind many deserted houses. There are 3 villages on the verge of becoming ghost towns. What do you think about this issue? As he spoke, Simone turned to look at the accountant Dixon, who was tied up beside him, and then he slowly drew the sword at his side, making Dixon so scared his face turned purple. Young master, why are you doing this? The old man said in panic, while Simone, continuously swinging the sword in his hand, replied, Are you playing dumb? Isn't this problem your fault? Hearing this, Dixon hurriedly explained, I really did try my best, I'm serious. Hearing that, Simone glanced at him as if looking at an insect. You tried your best. He really wanted to hang him in the middle of the square as an example, but the more he looked at his records, the more interesting he found him. You are a talent recognized by the entire empire. But instead, you refused offers from other territories and chose to come here. I requested the financial ledgers for the past 15 years to see what you've done. And you actually brought me all of them within 1 day without a single error. You really are useful. Opposite him, hearing these words of praise from Simone, the old man's face lit up and he laughed out loud. Ha ha ha! I am very good at calculations, you know. To brag a bit, I can solve all the problems in my head, he boasted arrogantly. However, just a second later, the old man couldn't laugh anymore. That's precisely the problem, Simone muttered, leaving Dixon a bit confused. Next, before his dazed eyes, Simone reached out, grabbed him tightly by the collar, and threw him straight down the slope. Yes, just like that. His whole body rolled down like a ball, while Simone slid down gracefully behind him. Then, upon crashing into a cliff, Dickinson's body finally came to a stop, and the ropes binding his body came undone as well. Why did you do that? The old man stammered a question. Then, after witnessing the impoverished town before him, his voice trailed off. This place is... Are these people really residents of the Viscounty? It can't be. According to my average calculations, there shouldn't be slums like this. Dickinson thought to himself in a daze, and as if reading his mind, Simone walked up beside him and said in a cold voice, "How does it feel to actually see the village with your own eyes? You can't just summarize human lives with numbers. You need to spend time with them and find out for yourself why the Viscounty has fallen into such a state. If you don't find the cause, you will no longer work for us. Are you going to fire me, my lord?" Dickinson stammered, and in response to his question was a bright yet dangerous smile from our protagonist. "Would you like to quit right now?" Seeing that, the bald old man shuddered and immediately ran towards the townspeople to find out what was going on. "Everyone, I am Dixon, the accountant of the Lacan family. I'm here to improve your living conditions," back to Simone. Seeing Dickinson working so enthusiastically to avoid being kicked out of the family, he had some thoughts of his own. "I don't mind seeing the Lacan family fall, but there's a right time for that. I need to improve this place, so that I can advance my magic circle." With that thought, Simone also left the town, leaving everything for Dixon to handle himself. The scene shifts to the Lacan mansion, where Philip was still being confronted by two people, Han and Roger, who were giving him a lecture. "Tell me again. Sir Philip, is it true that he paid off the debt by gambling?" "That's right, sir," Philip said weakly. After his words, everyone in the main hall turned to whisper amongst themselves. "Oh my God, he really solved the debt problem by gambling. If people find out about this, the family's reputation will be ruined. Why didn't you stop him?" A blond man asked, while Butler Han was so stunned he nearly fainted on the spot. "Oh heavens, we've built the family's reputation for centuries. And yet he goes and destroys it all." As for Roger, after grinding his teeth in frustration, he glared at Philip and asked, "Hey, Philip, his identity wasn't revealed, was it?" "Of course not, I'm not that stupid," Philip affirmed confidently, but as he said this, he realized he might have slipped up a bit. "How dare you raise a weapon against the heir?" The sole heir of the Lacan family. Those were the words that Philip had declared to the scammers inside the casino. Remembering this, his face turned pale and he tearfully admitted, "I guess I really am that stupid." Hearing this, Roger in front of him drew his sword, wanting to run him through. "You idiot!" he yelled in frustration. Turning back to Butler Han, regardless of whether Simone's identity was revealed in the casino or not, he was still concerned about bigger issues. Even if his identity wasn't revealed in the casino, it's only a matter of time before people find out. Considering Count Monach's intelligence network, he is the Lord of Lama, so all news will reach his ears. And with his malicious nature, he might seek revenge by any means possible if he does. In reality, we can't do anything because the one who said this is a distant relative of the Emperor. Han's face couldn't hide his anxiety, and next to him, the captain of the Knights, Roger, also agreed with this. Count Monach expands his territory through wars, and we've basically given him a reason to wage war against us. Han felt even more discouraged and wondered, I wonder what the young master was thinking when he did that. In response to his question, Simone, who had just returned to the mansion, spoke up. "I can't listen to this anymore. Where are all the people who said the family's reputation was important? Are you suggesting we should just turn a blind eye to the evil deeds happening right before our eyes?" Hearing this, Captain Roger at the front immediately retorted, "We are just being realistic. Our military force is nothing compared to Count Monach's. We just want to inform you that your decision has put this entire family in danger." Back to Simone, seeing these people still arguing so stubbornly, he proceeded to set each of them straight. "Did you earn your hero titles by licking the boots of those in power? Weren't you all bestowed the title of hero because you fought for justice even in the most disadvantageous situations?" In response to his sarcastic words, the butler Han, seeing the tense situation, hurriedly explained. "The people here are doing their utmost for the Lacan family. How can you say such a thing?" Without letting him finish, Simone glanced at him and asked directly, "So have the problems been solved? And yet you all make a big deal about me gambling. This is a serious matter. If people find out that you paid off the debt with money earned from gambling, the Lacan family's reputation will suffer." Han tried to point out the problem, however. Faced with his vain honor, Simone couldn't contain his anger and pointed a finger straight at his face. "That's enough. Does a good reputation solve famine? Your duty is to protect the people. The people of the Viscounty are starving to death and leaving because they can't endure the living conditions, and yet you still can't get your priorities straight. How ignorant. I will not tolerate such behavior anymore. From now on, everything will change. If you think my orders are wrong, you are free to leave. And anyone who does not follow my orders will be dismissed," Simone said in an uncompromising tone, causing Han's expression to change as well. "Young master, the people here have served the Lacan family for a very long time." He spoke up to salvage the situation. Hmm. Simone sighed wearily after listening. Yes, and I don't like people with narrow-minded views. I will show you my resolve. Saying this, he turned to look at Philip, who had been helpful on this trip. Philip, you did very well on our trip. You are as skilled as a captain. Hearing these words, question marks appeared over Philip's head as he didn't understand why the topic had shifted to him. Me, I wouldn't say that, he stammered in response. Seeing this, Simone glanced at Roger and said in a voice full of hidden meaning, I think only a skilled person deserves to be the captain of the knights. Oh, what do you think about that, Roger? Hearing these words from the young master, Roger seemed to read his intention. Young master, are you trying to... Without letting him finish, Simone stated his purpose plainly. It's simple. The winner of a duel will be appointed as the knight captain. Turning back to Philip upon hearing this, he was already on the verge of tears. I can't do something like that. He is my uncle and the one who taught me how to use a sword. Beside them, for some reason, Roger felt a bit annoyed after hearing this. Be quiet, Philip, I understand. I haven't had a chance to prove my abilities to him yet. I hope you're as good as you say. Simone replied, so be it. The group then moved to the training grounds to watch them fight. Looking at his nephew before him, a hint of memory appeared on Roger's face. It's been a long time since we've fought, hasn't it? Just the two of us. In response, Philip also nodded. Yes, it's been several years. However, I'm very confused about all of this, so I just intend to give it my all, he said as he slowly drew his sword from its sheath. Meanwhile, Roger, on the other hand, had become a little interested. All right, this should be fun. Then after a pause of about 1 to 2 seconds, Philip gripped the sword in his hand and said hesitantly, Here I come. On the other side, Simone, seeing Philip's face drenched in sweat, thought to himself, why does Philip seem so tense? Is Roger really that strong? After facing countless knights, I've learned that Philip is very strong. Returning to the battle after taking a deep breath to calm himself, Philip initiated his sword skill, dashing past Roger's body. However, his move was blocked very cleanly by the knight captain. It seems you've gotten better, Philip. Your skills have improved, he praised. Hearing that, Philip affirmed, I'm not the same as before, uncle. After speaking, Philip rushed towards him again at a wind-tearing speed. This time, instead of attacking rashly, he began to move around constantly to disorient Roger. Witnessing his speed, Roger was also a bit surprised. What's this? It seems you weren't just playing around, were you? Just as the words left his mouth, Philip's figure suddenly appeared behind him. However, his speed was still not fast enough to get past. This seasoned knight, I see. So there was a reason the young master praised you. However, to become the family's protecting blade, you need much more training. Saying that without even turning around, Roger easily grabbed Philip's collar. Then with a little force, he easily slammed his entire body. The young man onto the ground, creating a large crater in the floor. However, the attack wasn't over. While Philip's eyes were still rolling back in pain, his uncle followed up with a kick that sent his whole body flying like a torn sack. As a result, Philip hadn't even had a chance to show much before he was beaten to a pulp by his uncle. A feeling of unwillingness began to well up inside Philip, causing him to shout, It's not over yet! In response to these words, Roger calmly placed his sword on his neck and shook his head. The match is over. Young master, is this enough to show you why I am the commander of the knights? He said while glancing towards Simone. Not far away, witnessing his performance, although he didn't like the man's attitude, Simone had to crack a smile and admit, his skills are very impressive. Time passed quickly. The scene changes to the common training ground where the group of knights is training their endurance by jogging. And although the group at the back was exhausted and panting like dogs, Roger didn't let up. Don't stop, we haven't run enough yet, the young master is watching. Run faster! Yes, sir, the men shouted in unison. Back to Simone, his mood was a bit irritated as he grumbled, I didn't expect you to lose so easily. But Uncle Lacan is one of the 5 strongest swordsmen on the continent. So if someone targets me, then I can only wait to die, Simone said casually, leaving Philip with nothing to say, but I'm sorry. Not paying attention to this. Simone's voice from ahead suddenly changed a bit. Philip, when I decide to choose you as my official escort knight, make sure you do whatever it takes to fulfill that role. From behind, just with these words, Philip was moved to tears and gritted his teeth, promising, I will do my best to become your protecting sword. I will show you that I am worthy of your trust. Then hurry up and join them in training. Simone smiled. Yes, young master, Philip replied and quickly ran to the training grounds. Putting this matter aside, Simone glanced at the knights and nodded. Truly, the men among these 50 knights are considered veterans. I have to thank the lineage of this warrior family. It's not just Philip, but Roger as well. They are outstanding talents that almost anyone would want. If so, then I understand why the family is in this state. Time passed quickly until late afternoon. At this point, it was unknown what Simone had done, but Han's whole body was shaking as if having a seizure. What is this? Do you know what you're doing? First it was the statues, and now you're selling the family treasures. Are you planning to cast aside our family's honor? Han yelled, questioning him as he watched the servants carry the items out one by one. If it can make money, I'll do it, Simone said nonchalantly, but Han could not accept these words. Young master, why are you doing this? He said, his whole body trembling violently as if he was trying to suppress his anger, and then he looked at his face, which looked like it was about to explode. Simone reluctantly explained, the hero Lacan who died 500 years ago is of no use to us now. Just think about it. It's because of those rules that we keep clinging to. Everything done in the name of the hero Lacan is why the family has declined to its current state. It's all because of people like you. The name of the family has fallen impossible. If it weren't for the Demon King's curse, old Han retorted. Yet his very words were the best proof that such an attitude was also the problem. Praising the good fortune of our predecessors and blaming our decline on the Demon King, let me make it clear to you, I intend to become someone even greater than the hero, Lacan. So if you still intend to cling to those old principles of yours, then I will erase your name from the family's history. As he spoke, Simone took out a dagger and slammed it firmly into the table as if to demonstrate his resolve. Having said that, he stormed out of the room in frustration. After he left, the remaining servants gathered around Han. Are you all right, sir? At their words, Han's entire body trembled uncontrollably. Young master, I still remember when you would sit on my lap and listen to me read. I can't believe you've changed so much. Because you keep visiting the Demon King's castle, there's no doubt about it now. It must be the Demon King's curse. Outside, as soon as Simone emerged, his friend Philip awkwardly tried to persuade him, Young master, just this once. Could you please listen to Mr. Han? What you just said was too... Without letting him finish, Simone cut in, Harsh, you say, I see it a bit differently. I don't intend to give Mr. Han time to think, and I've pushed him as far as I possibly can with what I've said. Simone paused for a beat before getting to his point. Never mind that. Have you completed the task I gave you? Hearing this, Philip's expression changed, and he hastily whispered a reminder. Young master, you're too loud. I had a very difficult time getting this information from Mr. Han. So where is it? Simone asked with interest, causing his friend Philip's face to turn pale. Keep your voice down about that. Blah, blah. He whispered something into Simone's ear.